Hey guys, tonight, we're drifting back into a world that feels distant and strange, yet somehow familiar, a world where the idea of beauty was shaped, not by filters or mirrors or magazines, but by dim candlelight, village gossip, church teachings, wandering poets, and the slow rhythm of everyday medieval life. As you settle in and let your eyes grow heavy, we'll gently walk through those cobblestone streets and wooden halls, weaving ourselves into the quiet heartbeat of the Middle Ages, and discovering what people truly found beautiful, admired, or even feared in one another. Tonight, I want you to imagine the world growing softer around you, as though the modern noise is fading further and further away. The glow of your screen dimming, your breathing slowing, and all that remains is the gentle rustle of medieval cloth, the distant call of church bells, and the faint scent of old wood and warm bread drifting through the air. In this world, beauty did not exist as a picture-perfect ideal. It was something lived, something whispered about around market stalls, or noticed in the soft flicker of torchlight. In medieval times, beauty wasn't just about the face or the body. It was believed to reflect a person's inner character, their soul, their virtue. A calm face meant a calm heart. A bright complexion meant purity. And sometimes, the smallest details, a clear forehead, delicate fingers, a soft voice were enough to set imaginations fluttering. Other times, beauty was shaped by simple survival. Clean skin meant you were healthy. Strong hair meant you were well-fed. Clear eyes meant you could work, pray, and live without sickness. So tonight, as we drift deeper into this ancient world, picture yourself walking through a medieval village just before sunrise. The sky is still a shade of deep blue, the kind that feels like a dream you haven't fully woken from. A few candles glow inside wooden homes, and somewhere in the distance a rooster calls out the first hint of morning. You step across the uneven ground, feeling the cool air brushing against your skin, and you notice a group of women drawing water from a village well, their long dresses brushing softly against the stones. One of them laughs, quietly, almost shyly, and her friends touch her hair, braided simply, but carefully. In medieval times, hair was one of the biggest symbols of beauty. Long, well-kept hair meant health and fertility. Blonde hair was especially prized in many regions, often linked to angelic imagery, noble birth, or romantic poetry. But hair was not always seen. Married women often covered it under veils or coifs, giving it a mysterious allure. Even a glimpse of hair slipping from under a veil could be considered deeply attractive, the kind of beauty that wasn't meant to be shown casually. As you walk past, you hear soft whispers about a young girl in the village known for her pale skin, in other treasured sign of beauty. Pale skin meant you did not labor under the sun, suggesting higher status or delicate refinement. People would avoid tanning not for fashion, but because tanned skin marked you as a field worker. In a time where class and survival shaped everything, beauty and status blended together so closely that they became inseparable. You wander further and step into a small marketplace, just beginning to wake up. The scent of herbs, dried lavender, rosemary, and sweet-smelling oils drifts across the wooden stalls. Medieval beauty wasn't only about appearance but also about scent. Someone who smelled fresh, clean, or floral was admired, not because of perfume in the modern sense, but because cleanliness itself was a luxury. Bathing was rare, water was cold, and soap was expensive. So a pleasant, natural scent, or clothes washed with herbs, was enough to make someone seem almost enchanting. A young man passes by with a soft expression, a gentle jawline, and calm eyes. Medieval male beauty had its own charm. Men admired for their broad shoulders, healthy complexions, and the subtle strength that came from daily work. Not oversized muscle, not gym-sculpted bodies, just the kind of natural strength earned through carrying firewood, pulling ropes, or tending animals. A man's hands told stories too. Scarred hands meant strength, calloused hands meant labor, clean hands meant nobility. Every mark held meaning. You watch as the villagers interact, their movements slow and simple. Beauty in medieval times wasn't loud or exaggerated. It wasn't meant to stand out in a crowd. It lived quietly in small details, a graceful posture, a soft tone of voice, a modest smile, or a sense of calmness that put others at ease. Even kindness itself was a form of beauty. A gentle heart was often considered more enchanting than any physical feature. And now, as this medieval world settles deeper into your imagination, you let yourself breathe a little slower, letting the candlelight of this distant world soften your thoughts. The night deepens around you, and the ancient rhythm of life wraps itself around your senses like a warm blanket. And as that warm, ancient rhythm settles deeper into your thoughts, you feel yourself moving slowly along the village path, as though the medieval world has opened its wooden gates and invited you to wander further inside. The faint flicker of torchlight dances across the stone walls, and the soft footsteps of villagers begin to echo around you, blending with the gentle hush of the early morning breeze. It is here in this quiet space between waking and dreaming that the true nature of medieval beauty begins to reveal itself. Layer by delicate layer, shaped not only by appearance but by stories, beliefs, fears, and the rhythms of life that guided these ancient people. You walk past a row of simple wooden homes, their thatched roofs still heavy with dew, and notice a woman standing at a small window, brushing her long hair with slow, deliberate strokes. Medieval women often brushed their hair not just for grooming, but as a quiet ritual of calm. There was a belief that hair carried life, energy, and even blessings. A woman brushing her hair by candlelight was not only seen as beautiful, but also symbolic of care, patience, and inner harmony. Some would braid their hair tightly to keep it clean. Others let it fall loose on certain feast days, when beauty mingled with celebration. Her hair catches the soft light in a way that looks almost unreal, and you remember how deeply hair color influenced medieval ideas of beauty. Blonde hair was admired in poems and royal courts, often compared to sunlight or spun gold. But black hair had its own mystery, associated with depth, wisdom, and strength. Red hair carried superstitions, sometimes admired, sometimes feared. Every strand told a story, and every color carried meaning that shifted from region to region, from kingdom to kingdom. As you step further down the path, the sky slowly brightens. Though the world still feels wrapped in that hush that only early morning brings, you enter a small courtyard where a group of craftsmen prepare for the day. One sharp-eyed tailor examines rolls of cloth, running his fingers along fabrics to test their weight and smoothness. Clothing played a surprisingly large role in medieval beauty. It wasn't just decoration, it revealed status, wealth, and personality. A soft, clean linen underdress, a carefully embroidered sleeve, a cloak trimmed with fur. All of these signaled refinement. But even more fascinating was the symbolism of colors. Blue was a color of serenity and respect. Green suggested youth and vitality. Deep reds hinted at status and boldness. Many people wore whatever they could afford, but even the simplest colors carried quiet meanings. A woman who wore soft blue might be seen as gentle. A man with a red-lined cloak might appear proud or strong. Beauty wasn't loud, it whispered through small choices stitched into everyday life. In the courtyard, you notice a young girl helping her mother adjust a simple belt around her waist. Medieval fashion often emphasized the shape of the body in subtle ways: narrow waists, straight shoulders, neat posture. People admired symmetry, balance, calmness, and movement. And because the medieval world was so physically demanding, a person who carried themselves with graceful ease was often seen as especially attractive. They seemed healthy, dependable, able to endure the challenges of village life. As you wander deeper into the village, a soft murmur catches your attention. A group of elderly women gathered beneath a wooden awning, exchanging stories and small gossip about local families. Beauty in medieval times wasn't just about youth. Older women were respected for their wisdom, their steady hands, their experience in herbal remedies, and household knowledge. A face lined with age wasn't pitied, it was read like a book. Each wrinkle spoke of seasons survived, children raised, hardships endured. Strength itself was beautiful. One of the women looks up, her eyes warm and steady, and you sense the depth of stories she carries. Medieval ideals were complex, sometimes contradicting themselves. Purity and modesty were prized, especially for unmarried women, but strength, resilience, and capability were equally respected. A beautiful woman wasn't necessarily fragile. In many tales and songs, beauty was most admired when paired with dignity, intelligence, or virtue. You hear the faint ringing of a church bell in the distance, its tones drifting softly across the village. The medieval church influenced beauty in ways subtle and powerful. A serene face meant a serene soul. A calm demeanor reflected modesty and good character. People believed that inner goodness could be seen outwardly, so gentle expressions, soft smiles, and quiet voices were admired. Even posture carried meaning: upright, collected, composed. As the bell continues to ring, you walk toward a small chapel at the edge of the village. The wooden door is partly open, and you slip inside, enveloped by the cool, peaceful air. Candles glow in scattered rows, their flames swaying gently. The medieval world often blended beauty with spirituality. Saints were painted with radiant faces, gentle eyes, and smooth features. Nobles sometimes modeled themselves after these images, hoping to appear noble not just in status but in virtue. You move back outside, the sunlight now spreading across the sky in soft gold. The village is waking fully. Chickens cluck quietly, horses shuffle in their stalls, and the smell of bread baking drifts across the open spaces. You walk past a stream where two young men splash their faces with cold water. Cleanliness itself was rare enough to be admired. A person who managed to stay clean, even slightly, stood out. You watch as one of them scrubs his hands, revealing a pair of firm, steady fingers, the kind that come from daily work, not luxury. Medieval beauty favored natural strength. Strong hands, clear eyes, straight posture. Not sculpted muscle, just resilient, lived-in strength. A man with a calm face, a gentle voice, and dependable hands was admired more than someone with dramatic features. Further along, you come across a small group of women preparing herbal mixtures. Medieval beauty secrets were often rooted in herbs: rosewater for softness, lavender for calmness, mint for freshness. Some women rubbed crushed strawberries on their cheeks for a natural tint. Others used ground flowers to brighten their complexion. There were even strange rituals: bleaching hair with lye, lightening skin with lead powder, darkening eyebrows with soot. Some methods were gentle, others dangerously harsh. But beauty always carried desire and risk. As you watch them, you realize how much hopes and fears shaped medieval ideals. A clear complexion meant health in a time when illness was everywhere. Bright eyes meant you weren't weakened by fever. Smooth skin meant you weren't marked by hardship. Beauty was often just a sign that you had survived long enough to be admired. You continue forward, and the path leads you out of the village into a quiet meadow. The grass sways like soft waves, and the gentle rustle creates a soothing rhythm. In this peaceful space, you recall how medieval poetry often described beauty in nature's language: faces compared to morning light, eyes to the calm of rivers, voices to soft breezes. Beauty was a reflection of the world around them, a harmony between person and place. As you walk along the meadow, you spot a group of young people practicing dances for an upcoming feast. Their movements are rhythmic, graceful, simple. In medieval celebrations, beauty came alive, most vividly whirling dresses, laughter, songs played on lutes and flutes. People admired one another under lantern light and candlelight, shadows softening every feature, turning imperfections into charm. You pause near a young woman teaching dance steps to a shy boy. Her patience, her smile, her gentle correction of his steps, all of it radiates a quiet kind of beauty that feels timeless. Kindness itself was often considered the most enchanting quality. A beautiful person wasn't necessarily the most physically perfect, but the one who carried warmth, generosity, and calm within them. The dance continues, slow and gentle, and the warm sunlight flows across the meadow like honey. You feel its warmth settle on your skin, inviting you into a deeper sense of softness. The medieval world, despite its hardships, carried moments of profound tenderness. People looked for beauty in everyday life through tradition, nature, and human connection. And as you watch the dancers move, you feel the world around you becoming even quieter, even softer, as though time itself is slowing down. The breeze carries distant sounds: faint laughter, rustling leaves, trickling water, and all of it blends into a soothing lull that gently pulls you deeper into the dreamlike medieval landscape. Your breathing grows slower, your thoughts looser, and everything feels suspended in a calm, golden stillness. As the breeze brushes gently against your face, carrying with it the faintest trace of wild herbs growing somewhere nearby. The medieval world stretches quietly around you, warm and slow, almost glowing in the light of the rising sun. And as you take another soft breath, you feel yourself drifting deeper into the details of this ancient place, where beauty was not just seen with the eyes, but felt with the heart, shaped by customs, tradition, superstition, and the delicate whispers of stories passed through generations. As you wander toward the edge of the meadow, you notice a small wooden hut with its door slightly open, revealing shelves lined with earthen jars and bundles of dried leaves hanging from the ceiling. This is the home of a medieval healer, a woman who knew the secrets of herbs, roots, and oils. Many villagers came to her seeking remedies, but others came quietly, hoping to learn the hidden beauty rituals that only a few women knew. She understood that beauty in the medieval world was fragile, easily altered by sickness, weather, or simple exhaustion. So she crafted gentle mixtures from rose petals and chamomile, oils from lavender, bombs from honey and beeswax. A young woman arrives with shy footsteps, carrying a small cloth pouch. She whispers softly, asking for a mixture to brighten her complexion before a festival. The healer nods knowingly and begins to grind dried flowers in a stone mortar. Ground roses were believed to soften the skin, while violets brought a cooling effect. She adds a few drops of oil and stirs, creating a pale paste. Nothing in this world feels rushed. Every motion is slow, intentional. Beauty itself is a quiet process. You watch as the girl applies a little of the mixture to her cheeks, and a gentle warmth spreads across them. Cosmetics in medieval times were far simpler than what we know today, often made from plants, minerals, and sometimes unusual ingredients. For a slight blush, women crushed strawberries or red beetroot. For smoothness, they used egg whites that tightened the skin. And for a pale, luminous look, they sometimes used dangerous powders like white lead, beautiful in appearance but harmful in reality. Yet even here, the pursuit of beauty carried risks, wrapped in hope and quiet determination. As you step out of the healer's hut, the sunlight has brightened, casting long soft shadows across the ground. You walk toward a market square, where merchants are setting up stalls. One merchant unrolls a cloth filled with small, polished metal mirrors, rare and expensive. Most villagers never owned mirrors and relied instead on the eyes of their friends, the still surface of water, or the descriptions whispered during gatherings. Without mirrors, people lived with a different kind of peace, less concerned with perfection and more connected to how others saw them, how they carried themselves, how their presence felt. You wander deeper into the market, noticing a pair of traveling entertainers arriving in colorful clothing. In medieval Europe, performers often showcased exaggerated beauty, wearing bright fabrics, accentuated features, and bold jewelry to catch attention. Their style wasn't considered everyday beauty. It was theatrical, lively, meant to fascinate. Yet it influenced the imagination of the common people, who saw them as glimpses of other worlds, far beyond their own simple routines. One female performer adjusts her headpiece, revealing her carefully shaped eyebrows. In medieval times, eyebrows were surprisingly important. A high forehead was a beauty ideal for centuries, so women plucked or shaved the hairline upward to create the illusion of height. Some overplucked their eyebrows until they became thin, delicate curves. In certain courts, extremely thin eyebrows signaled elegance and noble refinement. Others darkened their brows with soot or charcoal to emphasize expression under candlelight. Eyebrows weren't just decoration, they framed the face in ways that spoke of status, modesty, and taste. As you move past the performers, you see a noblewoman entering the square, accompanied by 2 attendants. Her dress is finely made, with long flowing sleeves and embroidered patterns of gold thread. Unlike villagers who wore practicality, nobles used clothing to project both beauty and authority. Their garments were fitted to emphasize shape, their sleeves long to suggest grace, their fabrics dyed in rich colors that only wealth could afford. The noblewoman's skin looks pale and smooth, likely maintained with milk baths and herbal waters. Her hair is styled in a way that speaks of her status, carefully pinned, braided, and partly hidden beneath a veil. In nobility, beauty was a reflection of power and refinement, crafted intentionally with the help of servants and expensive materials. As she passes, villagers glance but look away quickly, knowing the unspoken rules of class. In the medieval world, beauty standards shifted dramatically between classes. For peasants, beauty was practical, clear. Skin meant health, strong hands meant reliability, a calm face meant inner balance. For nobles, beauty was a performancer, carefully constructed symbol of lineage, wealth, and social standing. Yet both groups shared one common belief: inner virtue could be seen outwardly. A person with a harsh heart was thought to look harsh, a kind soul, gentle. You continue walking until you reach a shaded area where a storyteller has gathered a small audience. He recites tales of legendary beauties, women with golden hair like sunlit wheat, men with eyes as bright as morning stars, and mythical figures whose beauty could heal or even destroy. Medieval stories often exaggerated beauty, but these tales shaped people's expectations. Beauty became a blend of myth and reality, influenced by saints, warriors, queens, and even supernatural beings. One story he tells is of a queen known for her shimmering skin and delicate hands. Her beauty so mesmerizing that poets traveled great distances just to describe her. But beneath the admiration, there was also fear. Medieval people believed beauty could be dangerous, capable of inspiring jealousy, temptation, or even moral downfall. A beautiful woman had to carry herself with modesty to avoid suspicion. A handsome man was expected to act with humility to avoid arrogance. Beauty wasn't simply admired, it was something to be handled carefully. As the storyteller pauses, you feel the world dim slightly, as though the sun has tucked itself behind a soft veil of clouds. You walk toward the riverbank, where the water flows quietly, its surface rippling gently under the breeze. Two women sit by the edge, washing cloth in the cold water. They speak softly about a wedding happening soon in the village. The bride, they say, is known not only for her lovely features, but also her gentle temperament. A calm bride was considered ideal, someone whose presence brought peace to her home. Medieval beauty wasn't only about looking pleasing, it was about embodying harmony, patience, and virtue, especially for women whose lives were shaped by family expectations and community judgment. Nearby, a young man tends to a horse, brushing its coat with steady movements. His posture is straight, his hands sure, his expression focused. Medieval men valued practical beauty, strength shown through work, clarity in the eyes, broad shoulders formed naturally by daily labor. A gentle demeanor was seen as noble. Kindness toward animals revealed the softness of the heart. Beauty for men was woven into capability, responsibility, and calmness, not flamboyance, not exaggeration, just steady presence. As you continue walking, the air grows warmer, carrying hints of lavender and dry straw. You approach a wooden cottage where an elderly couple sits outside, weaving baskets. Their gray hair and weathered faces carry a different kind of beauty, the beauty of endurance. In medieval society, reaching old age was itself a rare achievement. Wrinkles were marks of strength, not flaws. A lifetime carved into the skin. Beauty here lived in memory, wisdom, quiet companionship. You pause for a moment, watching the couple work in harmony, their hands moving slowly in rhythm. The simplicity of their world feels like a soft lullaby. They glance up and smile with eyes filled with warmth, as though reminding you that beauty in this era was as much about the heart as the face, about patience as much as perfection. Beyond the cottage, the path leads you toward a small wooden bridge stretching over a creek. You cross it slowly, feeling the gentle vibrations of water flowing beneath your feet. The landscape widens, revealing fields where farmers move quietly through their routines. In this world, beauty was often practical, highlighted by the way a person lived rather than how they looked. A strong back, steady footsteps, a voice that carried calm through hardships, these were admired more deeply than any jewelry or painted face. As you walk further, a soft wind stirs the tall grass, making it sway in gentle waves. The medieval world around you breathes slowly, peacefully, almost like it's dreaming itself. And with every step, you feel more deeply connected to the heartbeat of this ancient time, its rituals, its hopes, its quiet definitions of beauty that feel both distant and strangely familiar. The day begins to fade into the early blush of dusk, and the world becomes washed in soft shades of amber and rose. People begin to return to their homes, closing shutters, lighting candles, settling into evening routines. And in this dimming light, beauty changes once again. Candlelight softens every feature, turning sharp lines gentle, making imperfections fade into warmth. Medieval evenings were known for their quiet romances, the way faces looked under flickering light, the way voices lowered, the way shadows danced across the walls. And as the golden dusk deepens, you feel yourself drifting into that same quiet, slow, peaceful rhythm, ready to follow the medieval world deeper into the night. The air grows cooler, the sound softer, and every breath feels like it's drawing you closer to sleep. As the medieval evening folds slowly around you, like a warm wool cloak. The last rays of daylight slip behind the distant hills, leaving the world tinted in a quiet blend of rose and amber, shadows stretching like soft ribbons across the earth. The village settles into a hush, but your journey continues gently forward, guided by the dim glow of torches and the soft murmur of voices drifting from nearby homes. The medieval world becomes slower, calmer, as though it's preparing to reveal deeper secrets hidden beneath its twilight layers. You walk along a narrow path bordered by wooden fences and low stone walls, and ahead, the faint sound of music begins to rise, soft strings, a gentle drum, and the soothing hum of voices. Drawn toward it, you soon find yourself at the edge of a clearing where a small gathering has formed around a group of musicians. Evening gatherings like this were moments when beauty came alive under flickering light and laughter. People wore their best garments, though simple, and let themselves relax in ways the workday never allowed. A young woman sits near the musicians, her hair illuminated by the glow of a lantern hanging from a tree branch. Her cheeks are warm from the day's heat, and she has lightly tinted them with a mixture of crushed berries, a color that looks natural under the soft light. Her eyes sparkle with quiet joy, and you remember how medieval beauty was often described in poems. Eyes, not just in color, but in temperament, gentle eyes, steady eyes, laughing eyes. Poets wrote more about the feeling behind the gaze than the color itself. A person's eyes were windows, not merely to the soul, but to their character, their grace, their tenderness. Nearby, a young man plays a stringed instrument, his fingers moving with practiced ease. The villagers glance at him with admiration, not because he is handsome in a dramatic way, but because he has talent, confidence, and a presence that feels warm. Medieval beauty extended far beyond physical attributes. A person who could sing or play an instrument was instantly appealing. Their art made them shine, giving them a beauty that lingered in the memory long after the music faded. Talent was seen as a gift, almost divine, making the person who carried it seem touched by something special. As the music deepens, the village storyteller steps forward, lantern light flickering across his lined face. He begins to speak of royal courts far beyond this humble place, courts where beauty was an elaborate ritual, shaped by politics, rivalry, and the expectations of nobility. You feel yourself slowly drifting into his words, letting them paint the world around you. He describes a grand medieval castle lit by thousands of candles, their reflections shimmering on marble floors and silver goblets. The air inside is warm with scented oils, myrrh, amber. In noble courts, perfumes weren't simply fragrances, they were symbols. A lady wearing rose oil signaled purity and elegance. Jasmine hinted at luxury. Herbal scents like rosemary or sage suggested wisdom and intelligence. Perfume wasn't sprayed, was dabbed on the wrists, blended into hair, sometimes sewn into clothing with tiny scented pouches. In the castle's main hall, nobles walk with measured steps, each movement practiced to express grace. A noblewoman glides by, her gown layered in rich fabrics, her sleeves long and flowing. Her face is pale, partly from natural complexion and partly from powders made of ground alabaster or rice flour. Pale skin was prized among nobles because it symbolized freedom from labor. A flawless complexion meant leisure, wealth, protection from the harshness of outdoor life. But behind the powder, beneath the gold-threaded veils, were strict rules. Noble women were expected to maintain a serene expression, never too animated, never too bold. Beauty in the courts was not about boldness, it was about controlled elegance. A lady who laughed too loudly risked being judged. A man who boasted too much risked losing his reputation. Beauty lived in subtlety, soft movements, gentle smiles, quiet poise. The storyteller's voice softens as he speaks of royal rituals. Queens often slept with cloths soaked in herbal infusions to keep their skin smooth. Some used mixtures of honey and milk, believing they brought youthfulness. Others even resorted to dangerous methods, arsenic creams, mercury, washes chasing beauty standards that demanded perfection. Their attendants spent hours preparing their hair, arranging delicate curls, braids, or elaborate headdresses adorned with jewels. Even the shape of the hairline mattered. High foreheads remained a symbol of refinement, so hair was plucked carefully to achieve the ideal shape. You feel yourself drifting deeper into the imagery, as though walking inside that grand hall. The storyteller continues, describing the secret beauty signals nobles used to show romantic interest. A glance held slightly longer than necessary, a handkerchief dropped deliberately, a ribbon tied to his sleeve, a quiet smile offered across the hall. Because romance in the court was bound by rules, beauty was expressed in coded gestures, each one soft and meaningful. The medieval world loved symbols, small details that carried entire conversations without words. Slowly, the music behind the storyteller fades into a softer melody, and the villagers around you begin speaking among themselves, sharing stories of their own. Two girls nearby giggle softly, comparing their hairstyles. One has braided her hair with small wildflowers, a common medieval tradition during celebrations. Flowers weren't just decoration, they symbolized freshness, innocence, and youth. A crown of daisies or rosemary could turn a simple village girl into the image of springtime beauty. Another girl ties a ribbon round her hair, explaining how the color of the ribbon could send messages. A blue ribbon meant loyalty, red signaled admiration. Yellow could sometimes mean shyness. Even small accessories carried layers of meaning in a world where beauty lived in symbolism. You wander slowly to the other side of the clearing, where small candles have been placed along a wooden bench. A woman sits there, quietly painting a thin line of dark pigment around her eyes. This was rare among peasants, but some medieval women used soot mixed with oil to darken their lashes or outline their eyes, especially on festivals or feast days. Not dramatic like modern makeup, subtle, just enough to catch light in candlelit evenings. The woman dips her finger into a small pot of balm made from honey and crushed herbs. She applies a touch to her lips, giving them a soft sheen. Medieval lip beauty wasn't bright red or bold. It was natural, soft, barely noticeable. A touch of color to show warmth or vitality, not to draw attention. Most peasants didn't use lip color at all, but those who did preferred gentle, earth-toned tints created from berries or herbs. A group of boys nearby try scented herbs, laughing as they crushed mint between their palms to freshen their breath. Even breath held meaning. In a world where close contact was common, a clean scent showed respect, effort, and charm. As the evening deepens, lanterns glow brighter, casting halos of warm light around faces. You notice how candlelight transforms the entire gathering. Features soften, shadows smooth imperfections. Eyes look more luminous. The medieval world was a candlelit world, and its beauty was designed for candlelight. Clothing, hair, gestures, expressions, all made to glow gently under flickering flames. No harsh mirrors, no bright lights, just the warm shimmer of fire making every person look calmer, softer, more peaceful. You sit for a moment at the edge of the gathering, listening to the gentle music, the soft murmurs of conversation, the quiet laughter blending with the night air. The breeze carries the scent of wood smoke and fresh grass. People began preparing for supper, another moment when beauty became deeply human. A woman tucks her hair behind her ear. A man straightens his tunic. Children wash their faces with cold water. These small gestures carried their own charm, simple actions that shaped how people saw one another. You follow a narrow path leading out of the clearing, toward a small hill overlooking the village. The night sky opens above you, deep blue, sprinkled with stars. Medieval people believed the stars influenced beauty too. Astrologers claimed the position of celestial bodies at birth affected a person's appearance and temperament. A person born under Venus, they said, would be naturally graceful. Under the moon, gentle and soft-featured. Under Mars, strong and sharp. Beauty was written not only on the body, but in the heavens. You sit on the hilltop, watching the glow of lanterns below. From this distance, everyone looks tiny, softened into silhouettes. And yet, even from far away, you can sense the warmth of their world, the rhythms, the values, the quiet expectations that shape their lives. The night grows cooler. A thin mist begins to rise from the fields, drifting like a soft veil across the landscape. You breathe in deeply, letting the night air settle inside you, slow and calming. The medieval world becomes quieter, the last notes of music fading, voices dimming, candles flickering behind shutters. And in this stillness, beauty feels less like something to chase, and more like something that simply exists, woven into simple moments. Soft gestures, candlelight, kindness, and the gentle way people moved through their fragile lives. As you listen to the distant heartbeat of this old world, you feel yourself sinking deeper into its calm. Embrace the night growing softer around you, preparing to reveal even more secrets. Rituals of love, medieval grooming tools, rare beauty charms, the strange myths about freckles and moles, and how different kingdoms had entirely different ideas of what made someone enchanting. And as the medieval night prepares to reveal even more secrets, you feel yourself moving slowly down from the quiet hill, the cool mist touching your skin like a soft, wandering veil. The stars above shimmer faintly, scattered like tiny candles across the vast dark sky. The village lights glow far below, flickering gently as though breathing with the night itself. And with every step you take, the world around you becomes more tender, more ancient, more filled with the small, delicate truths that shaped medieval beauty in ways both surprising and strangely familiar. As you walk deeper into the night, you approach a small wooden fence behind which a garden stretches quietly. It belongs to an elderly herbalist, known in the village for her charms and remedies, some practicable, some whispered about in secret. She sits outside under the shade of a tree, separating dried petals from fresh leaves, her hands moving slowly with the wisdom of years. She glances at you with a gentle smile, as though she's been expecting you, and her voice is soft as she speaks about beauty charms used by medieval men and women. She shows you a small pouch filled with tiny dried flowers and herbs, lavender for calm, rosemary for memory, mint for freshness. Many villagers carried such pouches to enhance their natural scent. She picks up another small charm, teeny polished stones tied together with thread. These were worn for luck and love. Some believed that certain stones could warm the heart, bring softness to expressions, or draw the gaze of someone admired. Charms didn't create beauty, they invited it, encouraged it, whispered to it softly. She tells you how medieval people believed freckles were signs of summer blessings. Some saw them as marks of earthly charm. Others thought they revealed a playful spirit. In certain regions, freckles were admired, thought to make the face more expressive, more alive. Tiny constellations scattered across the skin. But in other places, they were avoided, seen as signs of exposure to the sun and hard labor, symbols of lower class. Beauty was never one universal rule. It shifted like water, shaped by geography, climate, belief, and story. The herbalist motions for you to follow the narrow path behind her garden, and as you walk further, the world becomes quieter, only the soft rustle of leaves guiding you. The path leads you toward a small stream flowing gently through the darkness, moonlight shimmering on its surface like liquid silver. By the water's edge, you find a group of women washing their faces with cool stream water, a nighttime ritual meant to keep the skin fresh and soothe the day's fatigue. They dip cloths into the water, pressing them softly against their cheeks, letting the chill awaken them gently. One woman holds a tiny bronze tool, an early medieval grooming device used for shaping eyebrows. She carefully smooths the hairs, adjusting them into a neat curve. Eyebrows were incredibly important across medieval Europe, believed to express character. A gentle, curved brow meant grace. Straight brows suggested strength and steadiness. Highly arched brows signaled nobility in some regions, while in others they indicated cunning. No matter the region, eyebrows framed the emotions, the gaze, the unspoken language of beauty, and in a candlelit world, symmetry became a quiet form of enchantment. As the women talk, you hear them share soft stories of love, quiet confessions, whispered under the moonlight. One speaks of how medieval lovers exchanged small tokens, a lock of hair tied with thread, a piece of ribbon, a pressed flower. Love, in the medieval world, was woven into beauty in a way far more symbolic than physical. People used small gestures to communicate desire, standing slightly closer than necessary, giving a brief touch, or placing herbs in someone's path as a silent message. A sprig of rosemary for remembrance, a violet for tenderness. A small braid of hair slipped into someone's sleeve meant quiet devotion. The stream continues to flow, its gentle sound wrapping around you like a lullaby. You walk along its edge until you reach a small stone bridge. On the bridge sits a traveling scholar, gently writing in a small leather-bound book. He looks up with calm, curious eyes and tells you about different kingdoms and their wildly different beauty ideals. In the far north, people admired strong features, wide-set eyes, full cheeks, and bodies capable of enduring cold winters. Strength itself was considered beautiful because it meant survival. In warmer southern regions, beauty leaned toward slender frames, sharp features, and expressive eyes that seemed to reflect sunlight. In eastern kingdoms, elaborate hairstyles and painted eyes held deep cultural significance. In some places, round faces were prized. In others, narrow features symbolized refinement. Beauty was never one shape, it was a story told differently in every land. He turns a page and shows sketches of hairstyles worn by noblewomen in different courts. High braids coiled like crowns, long veils that flowed like waterfalls, netted headpieces studded with tiny beads. Hair communicated more than beauty, it expressed status, region, even political allegiance at times. A married woman covered her hair. An unmarried girl let it fall freely. Braids were symbols of order and purity. Loose curls signaled celebration, and cutting hair was rare, often done only during mourning or religious vows. As the scholar's voice softens, the night air around you grows cooler, the mist settling closer to the ground like a delicate blanket. You continue walking along the path, entering a small wooded area lit only by thin shafts of moonlight. Here, you hear a faint melody, a single flute, played somewhere deeper within the trees. Drawn by the music, you move slowly until you find a young man sitting on a fallen log, his eyes closed as he plays. Music was one of the purest expressions of beauty in the medieval world. A beautiful voice or gentle playing could enchant an entire room. People fell in love through music, through stories, through shared quiet moments rather than grand appearances. He finishes his song and tells you how many medieval lovers communicated through ballads. A song could travel across villages, carrying a person's devotion farther than words ever could. Beauty was in the sentiment, the emotion, the sincerity, not just the face that inspired it. You leave the woods and find yourself in front of a stone farmhouse where a grandmother sits weaving under a lantern. Her hands move slowly, gracefully, crafting patterns with colors that glow in the dim light. She looks up and speaks softly about medieval garments, their hidden meanings, the way stitching itself could carry beauty. A neatly stitched seam showed discipline, embroidery revealed patience, colors declared personality. A simple wool cloak could still be beautiful if made with care, worn with dignity, and kept clean. She explains how medieval people believed that a clean, orderly appearance reflected a clean, orderly mind. Not perfection, not extravagance, just care, intention, presence. Even men took pride in combing their hair regularly, trimming their beards with small knives, washing with herbs when possible. A man with clean hands and a tidy beard was considered trustworthy and appealing. You bid the grandmother good night and continue on the path. The moon now hangs higher, casting long, gentle shadows across the fields. You see a couple walking slowly, their silhouettes framed against the soft glow of lanterns left on doorsteps. Their steps are unhurried, quiet. Romance in the medieval world was often subtle shared glances, joined hands, small gifts. Lovers didn't speak boldly in public. They expressed affection in whispers, in gestures, in the slight brush of fingertips. Beauty was found in these soft connections, in the warmth of companionship, not in exaggerated charm. Farther down the path, a blacksmith cleans his tools under a torch mounted to his wall. His arms are strong, his face smudged with soot, yet there is a quiet confidence in the way he moves. Medieval beauty for men was deeply tied to purpose. A man who worked hard, spoke softly, and treated others with respect was seen as admirable. Not dramatic features, not impeccable grooming, just steady strength and kindness. Many love stories began not with looks but with admiration for someone's work, their skill, their reliability. The night continues to quieten. A dog barks softly somewhere in the distance. The lanterns flicker gently in the cold wind. A faint scent of wood smoke drifts through the air, wrapping the world in a familiar warmth. As you walk through the village for the last time tonight, every window glows softly, silhouettes moving inside, families preparing to sleep. The medieval world around you breathes one last slow, delicate breath before settling into complete stillness. And in that stillness, beauty feels timeless, no longer about faces or clothes or gestures, but about the quiet human longing to be seen, to be cherished, to be understood. A longing that has existed in every century, in every village, in every flicker of candlelight. You take one last look at the peaceful scene before you, the soft glow of torches, the gentle outlines of homes, the night sky shimmering, and you feel yourself sinking deeper into the calm, ancient rhythm of this world. The night folds around you once more, preparing to carry you into even deeper stories, rituals of medieval weddings, royal beauty scandals, the strange superstitions of hair and moles, and how even sickness shaped beauty in surprising ways. And as the night folds around you once more, you step gently into yet another layer of the medieval world, one that feels quieter, more sacred, almost hushed beneath the weight of centuries. The air holds a faint sweetness, like distant flowers blooming in the dark, and the wind brushes softly across your face, as though inviting you deeper into stories that once lived in whispered corners of wooden halls. You walk slowly along a narrow dirt path, and each step makes the world around you soften just a little bit more, opening itself in calm, delicate breaths. Ahead of you glows a small clearing where a circle of candles flickers in an arranged pattern. You move closer and discover a medieval wedding preparation taking place. Women sit in a line, carefully braiding the bride's hair, weaving ribbons and tiny flowers through each strand, as though each braid carries a blessing. In medieval times, weddings were as much about symbolism as they were about love. Beauty rituals for brides were gentle, thoughtful, and deeply rooted in meaning. Hair represented fate, ribbons symbolized unity, flowers stood for freshness of heart. Every detail was meant to bring harmony. The bride smiles quietly as her hair is arranged into a long, intricate braid that falls over her shoulder. Someone dabs a mixture of rosewater and herbs onto her cheeks, a ritual believed to bring good fortune and natural glow. The scent is soft, calming. You hear the women singing a slow, melodic tune, a traditional pre-wedding song that speaks about patience, kindness, and the hope for a peaceful life. Beauty here is not loud. It is not sharp. It is woven gently through tradition, like a soft thread connecting generations. As the song fades, an older woman steps forward holding a small silver mirror. Medieval mirrors were rare, expensive, and precious. The bride gazes into it, not to admire herself in a modern sense, but to see the reflection of blessings placed upon her. Her grandmother touches her cheek lightly and whispers that true beauty lies in loyalty and tenderness, not in perfection. The bride nods with closed eyes, absorbing the moment like a warm light. You step back softly and wander further into the village, where a group of people gather around a storyteller who sits beneath a wooden arch decorated with dried herbs. He holds an old book filled with tales of royal beauty scandals that traveled across kingdoms like gentle gossip on wandering winds. In the medieval world, beauty could shape alliances, influence marriages, or even cause small ripples in politics without a single sword drawn. He tells the tale of a queen who secretly used crushed pearls mixed with honey to brighten her skin because her court expected her to embody almost celestial beauty. Another story follows about a noblewoman whose long hair was so admired that poems were written about it, but it became a source of jealousy among others in the court. A prince once scandalized his advisors by choosing a bride with a simpler, earthier charm instead of the conventionally admired royal candidates. These stories drift around you like faint smoke, each revealing how beauty was interwoven with power, yet still fragile, human, vulnerable. You walk past the crowd and enter a narrow stone alleyway lit by a single torch. The shadows move softly across the walls as you follow the path deeper into the village. Here you come across a group of healers discussing the strange medieval beliefs about moles, birthmarks, and small facial spots. Some people believed a mole near the mouth meant eloquence. On the cheek, it signaled charm. Near the eye, it revealed emotional depth. In other regions, the exact opposite was believed. Some superstitions even claimed moles were signs of destiny, markers of a person's spiritual path or their inner nature. The healers explained how different regions held different interpretations. In the northern mountains, a small mole was considered a sign of resilience. In coastal areas, it symbolized wanderlust. In regions influenced by older pagan traditions, moles were believed to carry secret meanings tied to elements. Earth, fire, water, air, beauty, once again, was not just appearance. It was a language people tried to translate. You continue onward until you enter a quieter, dimly lit part of the village. Here, the soft glow of moonlight falls on a narrow wooden bench where an older scholar sits reading a parchment. He invites you to sit beside him and begins speaking about how sickness shaped beauty in ways few people remember today. Medieval life was filled with illness. Small and large, and people often interpreted signs of sickness as reflections of inner states. Pale skin, for example, was sometimes seen as noble and refined, but in times of plague, it became associated with frailty. Sun-kissed skin meant labor and hardship in wealthy courts, yet in rural villages, it meant strength and vitality. Slight thinness was beautiful in certain periods, but during times of famine, it reminded people of suffering. Beauty changed with the health of the world. When villages were struck by illness, people found beauty in simplicity, in survival, in gentle faces rather than elaborate ones. The scholar closes his parchment softly and tells you about medieval remedies used from appiance rosewater for calming the skin, vinegar rinses for hair, oatmeal mixtures for soothing irritation. These were everyday rituals, but carried emotional comfort. They were slow, careful acts of self-tending in a world that often demanded endurance. You leave the scholar and walk deeper into the night, moving toward the soft sound of bells chiming faintly. The bells lead you to a small chapel where candlelight glows warmly behind stained glass. You step inside to find a monk quietly polishing a wooden surface. He explains how spiritual beauty was just as important as physical beauty in medieval times. A gentle voice, a calm expression, modesty, generosity, these qualities were considered far more beautiful than anything a mirror could show. He speaks slowly, almost like a lullaby, about the belief that a pure heart made the face softer, the eyes warmer, and the presence more peaceful. Many medieval people believed beauty flowed from the soul outward, shaping the way someone moved, spoke, and existed in the world. Even those who weren't physically striking could possess an undeniable aura that others found beautiful. You leave the chapel and follow a winding path that curves into a field where fireflies drift lazily above the grass. Their soft golden glow sparkles gently in the cool night air. Near a wooden fence, a group of young men sit in a circle, laughing softly. They talk about grooming rituals, brushing hair with wooden combs, trimming beards with small knives, using oil to soften the beard, and washing with herbs like sage and rosemary. Men, too, cared about their appearance, but in a practical, understated way. Strength, reliability, and humility created masculine charm far more than polished looks. One of them mentions how medieval women often admired hands that worked, helped, protected. Calloused hands could be beautiful because they spoke of responsibility. A steady gaze meant reliability. A quiet smile signaled warmth. Beauty for men was rooted in behavior, not glamour. You continue through the field and reach a faintly glowing campsite where travelers sit by a dying fire. A woman shares tales of different villages she has visited, each with its own understanding of beauty. In some places, high foreheads were admired so much that women plucked the front of their hairline to make it appear higher. In others, round, rosy cheeks were the symbol of health and desirability. Some preferred long, flowing hair. Others preferred neatly braided hair. Beauty was never fixed, it changed with climate, culture, and tradition. A gentle breeze moves through the campsite, making the fire crackle softly. A man beside the fire speaks about how medieval people used natural dyes for lips and cheeks, berries crushed into soft pastes, beetroot mixed with a little oil, and sometimes even wine residue used to give a faint blush. But makeup was not meant to transform faces dramatically. It was used to enhance natural features, never to mask them. Bold cosmetics were seen with suspicion. Subtlety was admired. The night deepens, the fire dims, the travelers begin to rest. You feel yourself pulled again into the soft heart of the medieval world, walking slowly toward a quiet pond surrounded by reeds. The surface of the water reflects the moon perfectly, still and silver. Medieval people believed reflections carried truth. Water showed who you were when you were calm and alone. You leaned closer and watched your own reflection ripple gently in the pond. The medieval belief that true beauty reveals itself in moments of stillness drifts into your thoughts. You sit beside the pond, feeling the damp earth beneath you, the cold night air brushing softly against your skin. In the distance, an owl hoots slowly. The village lights have grown faint now, barely glimmering through the mist. Everything is quiet, peaceful, ancient, and as you close your eyes for a moment, you sense the medieval world settling into silence, ready to show you even stranger truths. Beauty in medieval myths, remedies that bordered on magic, rituals of long journeys, and the surprising ways medieval people judged character just by someone's smell, voice, or posture. And as the medieval night prepares to reveal even stranger truths, you rise slowly from the soft earth near the pond, brushing the cool mist from your skin as though waking from a dream within a dream. The air feels different now, denser, older, filled with the presence of forgotten beliefs that drift through time like faint echoes. You begin walking again, your footsteps gentle against the damp grass, and the moon guides you toward a narrow forest path where ancient stories once breathed quietly between the trees. As you enter the forest, a faint shimmer appears ahead, almost like pale dust floating in the air. Following it, you arrive at a tiny grove where a group of people sit around a small cauldron heated over glowing embers. They are travelers and herbal mystics, their cloaks dark, their hoods pulled low, their hands moving slowly as they mix herbs in the warm liquid. They greet you with knowing eyes, as though they understand exactly what you've come to hear. They speak softly about medieval beauty, myths tales so strange and tender that they blur the line between belief and imagination. One of them holds up a small vial filled with pale golden oil. She explains how medieval women believed that rubbing certain oils on their skin during a full moon could attract gentleness or love. Not because the oils themselves had magic, but because the moonlight symbolized purity, renewal, and quiet blessings. Another traveler picks up a pouch of dried petals and says that some believed bathing with specific flowers would bring fortune. Not all believed deeply, but everyone liked the comfort these rituals offered. They tell you about even stranger myths, that certain forests blessed hair with unusual shine, that bathing in the first rain of spring made cheeks glow, that sleeping with a ribbon under the pillow could make a person appear softer or more charming the next morning. Some of these were simply stories shared by women to each other, little magical ideas that brought joy to long days. Others were rituals rooted in old pagan traditions that survived quietly through whispers. One traveler, the oldest among them, speaks of a legend that beauty rested in breath, that a person with a calm, steady breath carried a presence that others could feel even before they saw the face. Medieval people believed a good breath rhythm meant good health, internal balance, and emotional stability. In a world without mirrors, people often judged beauty through feeling rather than sight. The flames in the cauldron flicker softly as the travelers stir their mixtures. The warm scent of herbs rises into the cold night, wrapping around you like a gentle cloud. After a while, you leave the grove and continue walking deeper into the forest. The trees stand tall around you, their branches weaving together like a cathedral roof. In the dim moonlight, you spot an abandoned shrine built from rough stones, moss growing over its corners. As you approach, you notice faint carvings, symbols once believed to represent protection, fortune, and inner beauty. Near the shrine sits a quiet wanderer sharpening a small wooden comb. He looks up and begins speaking about medieval remedies that bordered on magic. Some used crushed pearls, believing they healed the skin. Others used vinegar mixed with herbs to cleanse impurities. Honey was treasured not just as food but as a healing balm for both face and spirit. There were mixtures to soften the hands, treatments to brighten the eyes, oils to calm the mind. Many were simple and effective. Others were born from superstition. He shows you an old pouch filled with dried lavender, telling you it was used not just for scent but to quieten the mind during sleep, and a quiet mind, medieval people believed, made the face more serene by morning. Serenity itself was beauty. You walk past him and the forest slowly opens into a clearing lit by a single lantern hanging from a crooked pole. A merchant sits beside a wooden cart filled with small glass jars. He waves you closer and speaks about something few people today imagine: how medieval people judged character and even beauty by scent. In villages and towns, where baths were rare and perfumes delicate, scent revealed much. People could tell how hard someone worked, what herbs they used, what foods they ate, how long they had traveled. A pleasant scent, fresh herbs, clean skin, soft smoke from a hearth was often seen as a sign of good character. Some believed a person's natural scent revealed their inner nature, their warmth, even their trustworthiness. Women often carried small herb sachets under their sleeves to maintain a soft fragrance. Men used pine resin or sage rubbed lightly on their palms. It was subtle, natural, unforced. You continue deeper into the night until you reach a stone well. A group of villagers sit around it, sharing stories about long medieval journeys and the rituals believed to protect beauty while traveling. Travelers rubbed oil on their hair to keep it from drying, tied cloth around their faces to shield them from wind, carried small wooden mirrors, and used herbal rinses to stay fresh. They believed that caring for oneself on the road was not vanity, was respect for the journey. Someone who traveled neatly, even through hardship, was admired. They describe how posture mattered deeply in those days. Standing tall meant confidence. A bowed posture signaled sorrow or shame. Medieval people read posture the way we read facial expressions. A graceful walk, a gentle turn of the head, a calm way of standing all were considered beautiful, sometimes more than looks themselves. You leave the well and find yourself moving back toward the edges of the village. A small tavern glows ahead, warm and golden, the sound of soft lute music floating into the dark. You step inside and find people sitting quietly near the fire, sipping warm drinks. A storyteller at the corner begins speaking about something rarely remembered: medieval voices. Voices mattered just as much as faces. A soft, warm voice was seen as deeply beautiful. A calm tone meant wisdom. A steady rhythm showed emotional balance. People judged attractiveness through voice far more often than through features. Even in dim light, a single spoken sentence could alter perceptions entirely. Many medieval poems described voices more than faces: songs, whispers, laughter, the softness of spoken words. The storyteller lowers his voice and shares that beauty in the medieval world was not a solid thing. It moved, it changed, it breathed. It was shaped by seasons, by customs, by hardships, by joys. A beautiful face meant little without gentleness. A charming presence meant more than symmetrical features. And most of all, beauty was tied to humanity, to how someone made others feel. You step out of the tavern and walk into the cold night once again. The village is quiet now, lanterns glowing faintly behind shuttered windows. You walk past a wooden gate and wander toward a hillside where the world opens into a vast stretch of sky. The stars feel closer here, as though leaning down to listen. You sit on a patch of cool grass, feeling the soft whisper of wind against your skin. and watch the shadows move slowly across the land. The medieval world around you feels alive not with noise or motion, but with memory, with stories of belief, ritual, charm, and the gentle ways people sought beauty in themselves and each other. You sense the next layer waiting quietly beyond the horizon, tales of medieval aging, how people saw older beauty, how laughter lines were treasured, how scars were interpreted, how love grew softer with years, and how beauty shifted as people grew older in a world lit by fire and moonlight. And as the world rests under the soft glow of moonlight, you find yourself walking slowly along a winding path that leads to a small hill overlooking the village. The air carries a gentle chill, brushing against your cheeks and adding life to your senses. You notice how the shadows of trees stretch long and calm across the ground, and the faint rustling of leaves feels almost like a lullaby. The village sleeps quietly below, but here on the hill, the medieval world reveals another layer: Wright's understanding of aging, older beauty, and how time shaped perception in subtle, gentle ways. Sitting on a soft patch of grass, you watch the moonlight reflect across the rooftops and the fields, painting them in a serene silver glow. In the medieval world, age was a delicate subject, yet it carried its own kind of beauty. Older women were often admired for the grace they had earned through patience, wisdom, and care for their families. Wrinkles were not simply marks of time, they were lines of endurance, stories etched into skin, proof of a life lived fully. A soft, serene smile in old age could make a face glow more than the youthful flush of berry-stained cheeks. You see an elderly woman walking slowly along the village lane, her steps measured and calm. She carries a small basket of herbs and smiles at the children playing nearby. Her hair is streaked with silver, braided neatly down her back, and she wears simple but well cared for clothing. Villagers respect her not just for her appearance but for her knowledge, her patience, her steady presence. Her beauty is quiet, gentle, earned through living, learning, and surviving the trials of her world. Nearby, an elderly man trims the hedge around his garden. His hands are strong yet careful, his posture upright. In medieval times, strength retained into old age was admired, signaling vitality, wisdom, and resilience. A man who worked steadily, tended to others, and maintained dignity in his steps was considered beautiful, regardless of the lines on his face or the thinning of his hair. Beauty shifted as time passed, from the freshness of youth to the depth of character in adulthood, to the quiet elegance of age. You continue down the path and arrive at a small stone bridge over a creek. The water flows silently, reflecting the stars above. Beside the bridge, two older women sit together, sharing herbs and small trinkets. They speak softly about rituals that sustain beauty through life's changes. Gentle herbal washes for aging skin, rosewater to calm and soothe, oatmeal pastes to soften hands that have worked through decades. They laugh quietly as they reminisce about their youth, about long-ago dances, weddings, and festivals. In their laughter, beauty exists not as perfection but as memory, connection, and warmth. Across the creek, a young boy gathers firewood near a small cottage. An elderly man calls out softly, showing him how to split the wood evenly. The boy watches with careful attention, learning not just the task but the elegance of skill. In medieval times, the way someone worked deliberately, patiently, respectfully, was part of their beauty. Hands that labored with care, bodies that moved with purpose, voices that were steady and gentle, all these were subtle markers of attraction and admiration. The night air grows cooler, and you walk further into a clearing where the village healer has set up a small fire. She sits quietly, grinding herbs in a stone mortar, preparing remedies for those in need. She speaks to you about the ways beauty intertwined with health and longevity. A pale face might once signal nobility, but a strong, glowing complexion reflected vitality and wellness. Strength and resilience became beautiful in their own right. Even minor scars, small imperfections, were accepted and often respected as proof of courage or endurance. You sit quietly, watching her hands move with practiced ease. She dips a small cloth into a bowl of herbal water and wipes a few villagers' hands and faces, murmuring soft words. This simple act is a medieval form of beauty, gentle, ritualized, and deeply connected to community. Beauty in this world was never solitary. It was relational, existing in the way people tended to themselves and one another. From the healer's clearing, you notice the faint glow of a farmhouse in the distance. An older couple sits outside, holding hands as they watch the stars. Their quiet companionship, the way they lean into each other, their shared smiles, carries more beauty than any ornament or adornment could. In medieval society, longevity, love, and mutual care often defined the most enduring form of attractiveness. Beauty was intertwined with loyalty, kindness, and emotional warmth. The night deepens, and the village grows even quieter. A soft wind rustles the leaves, carrying with it the distant scent of pine, smoke, and herbs. You follow a narrow path toward a field where a few villagers have left lanterns to guide travelers. You pause, noticing a middle-aged woman arranging herbs in small bundles, tying them with thin strips of cloth. Each bundle is meant for another family, another home, bringing calm and comfort. Beauty in her careful work, in her patience, in the rhythm of her hands, is evident to anyone who notices. In medieval times, these acts, simple, consistent, nurturing, were as valuable as the glow of youth. You wander toward a small grove beyond the field, where older men sit quietly around a dying fire, their voices low and steady. They speak of older beauty in their own way, how laughter deepened with age, how a calm demeanor became more attractive than bold gestures, how experience and wisdom gave faces an undeniable presence. They recall the youth of their friends, the energy of early life, and smile gently, knowing that beauty shifts naturally through time. Lines, scars, silver hair, strong hands all mark life's journey and create forms of admiration not possible in youth alone. A gentle stream flows nearby, reflecting moonlight like liquid silver. You kneel by the water, watching ripples spread softly across the surface. In this quiet moment, you realize that medieval beauty was deeply tied to the natural world. Sunlight and shadow-shaped perception. Seasonal changes affected skin and hair. The passage of time itself was considered an essential part of beauty. Flowers, herbs, water, and fire, the elements intertwined with life, shaping not just appearance but presence, character, and the feeling of being fully alive. The wind shifts, carrying faint laughter from a cottage in the distance. Children play quietly, older siblings watch them with soft smiles. Life moves gently in cycles, each stage bringing its own aesthetic, youthful curiosity, the poised energy of adulthood, the calm grace of age. You notice how medieval villagers valued balance between work and rest, between responsibility and joy, between care for oneself and care for others. Beauty existed not in extremes, but in harmony, subtlety, and the quiet pulse of living fully. As you continue walking through the village under the starry sky, you pass a small chapel where candlelight flickers through narrow windows. Inside, an elder monk arranges hymn books. He speaks softly of spiritual beauty, which never fades, never wrinkles, never diminishes with age. Virtue, patience, humility, and kindness radiate outward. People who embraced these qualities were considered beautiful beyond measure. Youth and physical perfection were temporary. Character and spirit were enduring. You leave the chapel and return to the hilltop overlooking the village. From this vantage point, the lights of the village are soft, scattered, alive in a gentle rhythm. You sit quietly on the grass, feeling the night air, the faint scent of earth and herbs, the calm pulse of a world untouched by rush or haste. You realize that medieval beauty, across every age and stage, was never about extremes. It was about presence, care, patience, gentleness, and harmony with the natural rhythm of life. You breathe deeply, letting the night settle into every part of you. The village lies calm below, the stars shimmer above, and the soft whispers of centuries past fill the air. You feel a sense of timeless calm, as though the lessons of medieval beauty, its rituals, its myths, its gentle wisdom are wrapping around you, preparing your mind and body for sleep. And as the wind moves softly across the hill, you know that this journey is far from over. And as you let yourself sink deeper into the night, the air around you seems to hum softly with the echoes of old stories, whispers of forgotten rituals, and the quiet pulse of a world long past. You begin walking down a narrow forest path that winds gently toward a small glade where the moonlight spills across soft grass, illuminating tiny flowers that sway lightly in the gentle breeze. The scent of herbs rises faintly from the earth, mingling with the subtle aroma of distant wood smoke, and you feel as if the night itself is guiding you forward, revealing the next layer of medieval secrets. At the edge of the glade, a small circle of villagers gathers around a low fire. Among them, an elderly woman carefully unwraps a bundle of dried herbs and flowers. She speaks softly about love charmstini, carefully prepared mixtures believed to attract attention or inspire affection. Medieval people often relied on these subtle gestures, small rituals passed down through generations. A sprig of rosemary tied to a ribbon, a sachet of lavender tucked into a sleeve, or a pinch of crushed rose petals left in a window. It was not magic in the modern sense, but the belief in intention, care, and symbolic beauty that mattered. She dips her fingers into the herbs and sprinkles a few over the fire, letting the aroma rise. She explains that some charms were intended to enhance natural grace, others to invite calm or kindness into interactions, and yet others to signal devotion without speaking a word. The villagers around her nod, sharing quiet smiles, and you notice that these rituals, while subtle, carry a profound sense of connection. Beauty in the medieval world often resided in intention and the thoughtful way one treated both oneself and others. You wander slowly past the fire and follow a faint trail that leads deeper into the forest. Shadows stretch long across the ground, soft and undulating. Here a traveling merchant has set up a small stand, illuminated by the gentle glow of a lantern. He shows jars of colored powders and oils, rare ingredients that medieval women and men would sometimes use to subtly enhance appearance. Ground almonds for skin softness, crushed petals for a gentle blush, honey mixed with herbs for shine in hair, and small vials of scented oils to lift the presence of a room. Nothing was meant to dazzle dramatically. Each was applied with care, in moderation, always blending into the natural rhythm of life. Nearby, a young man plays a quiet tune on a wooden flute. The sound drifts softly, weaving between the trees like a tender lullaby. Music, medieval people believed, could enhance beauty just as much as appearance. A calming melody could soften expressions, make the eyes seem brighter, and imbue the listener with subtle grace. The combination of voice, movement, and scent formed the truest measure of charm, often more than the color of cheeks or the style of hair. Following the sound, you find yourself in front of a small pond reflecting the moon and the delicate silhouettes of trees. Across the water, a group of young women sits in a circle, weaving flowers into their hair. They whisper to each other about local beauty superstitions, tiny rituals that blend care, belief, and playfulness. Some believe that sleeping with a single flower under a pillow could inspire a gentle smile or attract admiration by morning. Others hold that sprinkling crushed mint on hands before greeting someone would bring a sense of freshness and vitality. Each tiny act carries meaning, enhancing presence more than appearance, and teaching a profound patience and attentiveness. You follow a narrow trail leading toward a hill, where the glow of distant lanterns hints at a small gathering. A storyteller sits beneath a gnarled tree, reading from an old manuscript. He speaks of medieval court intrigues, tales of noblemen and women whose lives revolved around beauty, appearance, and subtle gestures of influence. A queen's pale skin, the precise curve of a gown, the measured tilt of a head, the shimmer of jewels, each could shift favor, spark jealousy, or signal power. In the courts, beauty was a language, a set of codes that only those steeped in tradition fully understood. The storyteller lowers his voice, drawing you closer with each word. He describes the delicate dance of charm and etiquette, the correct tilt of a hand to show respect, the gentle sweep of a sleeve to convey grace, the careful arrangement of hair to hint at social status or personal taste. Even the direction of a gaze mattered, how long it lingered, how soft or sharp it appeared. Beauty, in this world, was deeply intertwined with ritual, observation, and subtle influence. You continue walking as the night deepens, passing a small cottage where the warm glow of a fire spills into the darkness. Inside, an older couple tends to simple meals, their hands moving with practiced care. The warmth of shared labor, the calm rhythm of daily tasks, and the quiet attention to one another embody a beauty that no mirror could reflect. In medieval times, these acts, gentle, consistent, relational, were valued as much as outward adornment. A kind gesture, a soft word, a steady hand, and shared presence were the truest markers of attraction and respect. Beyond the cottage, you move toward a field where fireflies drift lazily over the grass, their gentle lights twinkling like tiny stars on earth. You notice children running softly among the shadows, their laughter quiet yet full of life. The villagers watch them with soft smiles, knowing that playful innocence, natural energy, and gentle curiosity were signs of vitality and charm. Medieval beauty often valued what today might seem mundane: health, liveliness, attentiveness, and the quiet joy of being present in one's world. A little further, you pass a quiet stream where women have gathered to rinse herbs in the water. They speak softly of the ways certain natural elements could enhance appearance or presence. Rosewater calms and soothes, mint refreshes and invigorates, chamomile relaxes and softens. The use of herbs was gentle, slow, and ritualistic. Beauty in this sense was an ongoing practice, a quiet attention to one's body, senses, and surroundings, rather than a pursuit of perfection. You notice an older man sitting nearby, sharpening a small comb with deliberate care. He tells you about the subtle importance of grooming, brushing hair to keep it soft, trimming beards to maintain a neat appearance, washing hands and face with herbs for clarity and presence. In medieval villages, these small acts of self-care were intertwined with respect for others, with personal dignity, and with the quiet art of living gracefully. The lines between beauty, health, and character blurred seamlessly. The night wind carries soft scents of wood smoke, lavender, and distant pine. You follow a narrow trail toward a hill where the village elder sits quietly, meditating beside a small fire. He speaks in a slow, gentle voice about spiritual beauty, how patience, humility, and kindness radiate outward, making someone beautiful beyond the fleeting appearances of youth or adornment. True beauty, he says, is rooted in the heart, in the care shown to others, in the harmony between one's inner self and the world around. You continue along the hilltop path, watching the moon reflect over fields and rooftops. The village below is quiet, its soft glow punctuated only by distant lanterns and the occasional flicker of firelight. You notice a young couple walking hand in hand, their movements unhurried, their eyes calm. They smile softly at each other without words, their gentle companionship conveying more allure than the most elaborate gowns or jewels ever could. In medieval times, such quiet connection was a true mark of beauty. The path leads you toward a grove where an old herbalist prepares remedies under a lantern. She shows you small jars of oils, dried herbs, and powders used for enhancing presence and well-being. Each preparation is subtle, a touch of honey for smooth skin, a dab of rosewater for calm expression, crushed petals for a soft blush. Nothing exaggerated, nothing prestige, carefully balanced to harmonize with the person's natural features. Beauty in medieval life was about gentle enhancement, aligning with nature, and subtle refinement rather than dramatic change. As you move beyond the grove, the stars above shine brighter, reflecting faintly in the small puddles along the path. The soft chirping of night insects fills the silence, blending with the whisper of leaves and distant laughter. You pause for a moment, breathing deeply, letting the serenity of this medieval night settle inside you. Every sight, sound, scent, and movement seems part of an ancient rhythm, a slow, timeless dance that nurtures calm, reflection, and a gentle sense of wonder. You arrive at a quiet hill overlooking a small pond. The water is still, mirroring the moon and the stars above, as if the sky itself has descended to meet the earth. Sitting by its edge, you realize that the medieval world celebrated beauty not as a static attribute but as a living, changing presence, one shaped by care, ritual, intention, and the quiet harmony between body, soul, and environment. Youth, age, health, skill, kindness, laughter, ritual, music, labor, and love all became threads in the rich tapestry of attraction and admiration. You take a deep breath, letting the cool night air fill your lungs and calm your heart. The reflections in the pond ripple slightly as a gentle breeze passes, and you sense that the next layer of the story is waiting patiently. Ancient feasts, seasonal rituals, rare ingredients, royal customs, and even the ways medieval people interpreted dreams and portents as part of their understanding of beauty and allure. And as you linger by the still pond, the moonlight shimmering across its surface, you feel the medieval night gently wrapping around you, soft as a silken cloak. The world feels suspended between earth and sky, quiet yet alive, holding centuries of secrets in its breath. You rise slowly and continue along a winding path, where the scent of herbs and faint smoke drift softly through the air, carrying you deeper into the hidden layers of medieval life, its customs, rituals, and perceptions of beauty. Ahead, a small wooden cottage stands nestled among the trees. Through the softly glowing window, you glimpse a woman carefully arranging small bundles of dried flowers and herbs. She greets you with a gentle nod and explains how dreams were once believed to hold subtle messages about one's appearance, charm, or potential fortunes in love. Medieval people often recorded dreams, interpreting the symbolism in them. A flower in a dream could suggest blossoming beauty or admiration. A small animal might hint at cunning or charm, and even the color of the sky in a dream could indicate someone's perceived grace or vitality. You kneel beside her as she spreads herbs across a small wooden table. Lavender, rosemary, rose petals, Chamomile leech is arranged with purpose, to be steeped, carried, or burned in tiny rituals. Dreams, she explains, were thought to interact with these natural elements, enhancing certain qualities or calming anxieties. A gentle, fragrant presence could amplify the impression one left upon others, subtly enhancing natural allure. Beauty in this sense was both tangible and ephemeral, a quiet dance between perception, ritual, and intention. You leave the cottage and follow a narrow forest trail, illuminated by shafts of moonlight between the trees. The leaves rustle softly overhead, and somewhere distant, the faint hoot of an owl punctuates the night. Along the path, you encounter a small group of women sitting on blankets, quietly exchanging tips about herbs, oils, and subtle applications for enhancing presence. One woman dips her fingers into crushed rose petals and gently rubs them on the cheeks of another, explaining that even a slight blush could convey warmth, vitality, and attentiveness. Another uses a fine powder made from almonds and honey to smooth the skin of her hands, a small act of care that carries meaning in gesture and presence. The night deepens, and a gentle breeze carries the soft fragrance of the forest, mingling with the scent of herbs. You continue along the path, approaching a tiny glade where a musician strums a lute. The slow, melodic tune drifts through the trees, soothing the spirit and softening expressions. Medieval people believed that music could enhance charm, making gestures seem more graceful, eyes more expressive, and the presence more appealing. A soft melody could transform ordinary interactions into subtle acts of attraction, where beauty existed not only in the eye but in the resonance of sound and movement. Moving further, you encounter a small bridge over a quiet stream. On its edge, an elderly man is carefully combing his long hair, now streaked with silver. He speaks softly about how aging did not diminish beauty but transformed it. Lines on the face told stories, gray hair signaled wisdom. Calm, measured movements revealed patience and experience. In medieval times, older beauty was often associated with reliability, nurturing presence, and gentle authority. A face marked by life's passage could carry a depth of character that youthful features alone rarely conveyed. Across the bridge, a small circle of villagers sits around a fire, whispering stories about the rare ingredients and remedies believed to enhance charm. Ground petals, crushed pearls, honey-based pastes, herbal oils, all applied subtly to accentuate natural features. Some mixtures were intended to calm nerves, some to brighten the skin, and others to imbue a sense of calm confidence. The process was slow, intentional, and ritualistic. Beauty, in this world, was never rushed or forced. It grew through careful attention to detail, presence, and the harmonious blending of body, mind, and surroundings. You pause beside a tree, watching the flicker of the firelight on their faces. The villagers speak of royal courts, where appearances and charm could shift alliances and favor. A carefully arranged hairstyle, a subtle use of color, a well-timed smile leech, could convey intelligence, grace, and strategy. But even in simpler villages, these principles persisted quietly. The alignment of gesture, scent, movement, and expression defined attractiveness. Beauty was not merely decorative, it was functional, relational, and profoundly social. The wind shifts, carrying the faint smell of pine and the soft sound of running water. You continue along a winding trail that leads to a small pond surrounded by reeds and low shrubs. The moon reflects perfectly in the water, and you pause to see your reflection ripple with the faint breeze. Here, you notice how medieval beliefs connected natural elements to presence and allure. Calm water reflected serenity. Clear water suggested purity. Even the gentle ripple carried a reminder that beauty, like water, moves, changes, and reflects the world around it. From the pond, you follow a faint path to a small village square, where lanterns glow faintly, illuminating cobblestones worn smooth by generations. You see an elderly couple arranging firewood near a small forge. Their movements are steady, harmonious, and careful. In medieval society, these qualities calm deliberate action. Attentiveness contributed more to perceived charm than fleeting physical attributes. A warm gaze, a soft smile, or a gentle hand could convey beauty that no ornament could replicate. Passing through the square, you notice children quietly tending small animals, older siblings guiding them with patience. The villagers watch with soft smiles, understanding that playful energy, attentiveness, and learning contribute to charm and grace. Even in youth, beauty was intertwined with behavior, interaction, and care for the living world. The medieval ideal valued kindness and harmony, teaching that attractiveness was not simply visual but relational and ethical. A small wooden bridge leads you toward a quiet chapel, where candlelight flickers through narrow windows. Inside, an elder monk arranges hymnals while speaking softly about the enduring nature of spiritual beauty. Patience, humility, and the consistent practice of virtue radiate outward, making someone's presence gentle, compelling, and attractive beyond any physical form. Medieval people believed that true beauty emanated from the alignment of spirit, action, and intention. Youth fades, appearances shift, but a kind heart, thoughtful speech, and deliberate action endure. You leave the chapel and wander toward a gentle hillside overlooking the village, the soft glow of lanterns twinkling below. The night feels infinite and calm. You notice an elderly woman sitting quietly, arranging bundles of herbs and small flowers. She smiles at you as if acknowledging a shared secret. Beauty, she seems to say, is both an art and a practice, unfolding through care, ritual, and the harmony of self with the world. Every movement, glance, and action carries meaning. Every ritual, however small, conveys intention. Every gesture adds to the presence that medieval people recognized as attractive and compelling. As you sit on the hillside, watching the reflection of stars in the pond below, you feel the night settle fully around you. The wind whispers through the trees, the faint rustle of leaves echoing softly. Every layer of medieval life you've traversed: the rituals, charms, herbal remedies, music, courtly practices, aging, spiritual awareness, and relational attention creates a vision of beauty that is timeless, subtle, and deeply human. It is a beauty rooted not in perfection, but in the gentle alignment of action, intention, and presence. The village below lies silent, bathed in the soft glow of distant lanterns, and you feel the rhythm of centuries pulsing quietly beneath your awareness. In this moment, the medieval world teaches you that charm is not a single quality but a tapestry of care, patience, ritual, empathy, and harmony. The stories you have witnessed, the rituals you have glimpsed, the quiet acts of attentiveness all merge into a gentle understanding of beauty that transcends time, guiding you deeper into calm, reflection, and serenity. From this hilltop, you watch the moonlight spread softly over the village, touching the rooftops, fields, and forest beyond. You feel yourself carried slowly by the rhythm of medieval nights, by centuries of stories, rituals, and quiet truths about how humans have always sought, recognized, and cherished beauty. You are ready now to move even deeper, toward the most unusual superstitions, secret remedies, royal intrigues, and personal rituals that defined allure in ways both subtle and profound. And as the night stretches its quiet, silvery arms across the village, you find yourself wandering down a narrow path lined with ancient oaks. The air is cooler here, soft with the scent of earth, pine, and faint herbs lingering from the fields. Each step feels deliberate, slow, like moving through a memory preserved in the gentle folds of time. Somewhere ahead, a faint glimmer suggests the presence of a small cottage, where the warm glow of candlelight spills through wooden shutters, hinting at more secrets waiting quietly within. You approach the cottage and find an elderly woman kneeling on a woven mat, her hands busy with tiny bundles of dried flowers, roots, and crushed herbs. She greets you softly and invites you to sit, explaining that in medieval times, beauty was often entwined with subtle superstitions. Certain herbs were believed to ward off jealousy, attract favorable attention, or enhance charm in ways both symbolic and practical. Lavender for calm, rosemary for remembrance, rose petals for attraction, chamomile for softness, hawkily combined into sachets, washes, or gentle perfumes. She dips a tiny cloth into a bowl of warm water infused with petals and presses it gently against her own cheeks, murmuring softly. The ritual is slow, deliberate, and intended to soothe the spirit as much as the skin. She explains that medieval people believed emotional balance, calmness, and attentiveness were essential to true beauty. A flushed face without serenity was less desirable than a calm face, showing vitality and kindness. Charm was measured not by superficial perfection, but by the subtle interplay of presence, intention, and gesture. You rise and continue down the forest path, where the moonlight filters between the branches in gentle silver threads. The soft rustle of leaves accompanies you, and somewhere nearby, a distant bell tolls slowly. Ahead, you notice a small circle of villagers seated around a fire. One of them, a traveling musician, plucks a lute quietly while others stir small bowls of fragrant herbal water. They speak of secret remedies, ground almonds for soft skin, honey for smoothness, crushed petals to enhance subtle blush, and oils that could lightly scent the body with warmth and freshness. Each application was gentle, never bold, blending seamlessly into natural beauty rather than altering it dramatically. Nearby, an older man dips a small brush into a mixture of herbs and honey, applying it lightly to his hands. He explains that men, too, practiced grooming, though it was more understated, trimming beards, brushing hair, washing with scented water, and attending carefully to posture and movement. Strength, calm, confidence, and attentiveness were the hallmarks of masculine beauty. In medieval society, a steady, respectful presence often mattered more than sharp features or elaborate adornment. You move quietly past the circle and follow a narrow trail leading toward a small stone bridge over a flowing stream. The water glimmers under the moonlight, reflecting the subtle glow of lanterns in the village beyond. Here, an elderly woman tends a small garden of herbs and flowers. She explains that different regions had varying beliefs about moles, freckles, and birthmarks. A tiny mark on the cheek could symbolize charm. A spot near the eye could hint at wisdom or emotional depth. Interpretations shifted across villages, yet each sign was considered meaningful, a reflection of both fate and character. The stream continues to flow gently as you follow its edge toward a small meadow. You notice a group of women arranging ribbons and flowers into elaborate braids, whispering softly about festivals, weddings, and seasonal celebrations. Hair was considered one of the most potent expressions of charm, signaling status, marital prospects, or personal grace. Young women braided for courtly dances, older women maintained simple yet tidy styles, and the careful attention to hair care was both practical and symbolic. A well-combed braid could signify patience, skill, and social grace, while loose, flowing hair often hinted at freedom, youth, or celebration. As you move through the meadow, the gentle notes of a flute drift across the night air. You follow the sound to a small glade where a musician plays for a handful of villagers sitting quietly on soft grass. Music, medieval people believed, could subtly enhance allure, soften expressions, and influence perception without words. A calm melody could make the eyes brighter, movements more graceful, and conversations feel tender. Beauty was not only visual, it existed in sound, rhythm, and the emotional resonance shared between people. The path takes you toward a quiet hill overlooking the village. Lanterns glow faintly below, scattered among cottages and small fields. You sit on the soft grass and observe the village life, as if through a slow, ancient lens. Couples walk quietly hand in hand, children chase fireflies, and the soft murmur of conversation blends with the night air. Beauty, you realize, in medieval villages was relational. It was expressed through gestures, attentiveness, and shared presence rather than mere appearance. A gentle smile, a soft voice, and calm manners often carried more weight than ornate garments or jewelry. You notice an elderly couple tending a small fire near a shed. Their hands work together naturally, dividing tasks silently, their movements synchronized by years of habit. This quiet coordination, this subtle dance of cooperation and care, was deeply valued in medieval notions of charm. Beauty often resided in harmony, between bodies, between intentions, and between generations. The older villagers teach through example, showing that true allure evolves over time, rooted in wisdom, patience, and calm attentiveness. The night air grows cooler, carrying the scent of pine, smoke, and faint herbs. You continue along a winding trail, toward a small chapel where candlelight flickers through narrow windows. Inside, an elder monk carefully arranges hymnals while speaking softly about enduring beauty. Patience, humility, virtue, and attentiveness to others radiated outward, making someone profoundly attractive beyond physical form. Youth and symmetry may fade, but kindness, care, and thoughtful action persist as lasting markers of charm. You leave the chapel and wander along the hillside, the moonlight painting long shadows across the soft grass. A gentle breeze rustles the leaves as you approach a small grove where an herbalist prepares remedies under a lantern. Tiny jars of oils, herbs, and powders line a wooden shelf. She demonstrates the subtle use of rosewater for calming expression, almond-based pastes for smoothing skin, and crushed petals for a gentle blush. The rituals are slow, deliberate, and intended to harmonize with the natural features rather than change them. Beauty, in this world, was both a practice and a reflection of care for self and others. As you walk beyond the grove, the stars shimmer above like tiny lanterns in the night sky. The soft sounds of the village drift up from below, gentle voices. the faint clatter of chores, the occasional hoot of an owl. You pause beside a small pond reflecting the moon and stars, noticing how medieval people valued clarity, calmness, and serenity in both environment and presence. A gentle demeanor, steady hands, and soft laughter often conveyed more charm than appearance alone. Beauty was a living interaction, extending through gestures, attention, and subtle rituals. You follow the pond's edge toward a quiet village square where lanterns glow faintly, illuminating cobblestones smoothed by centuries of footsteps. Villagers go about their evening tasks quietly, their gestures deliberate and harmonious. Children care for small animals, older siblings guide them, elders supervise with calm attentiveness. Here, charm is measured not by embellishment, but by consistency, care, and harmonious action. Beauty, once again, emerges as relational, subtle, and deeply human. Moving further along, you approach a small bridge where the stream widens and ripples softly in the moonlight. A musician sits nearby, playing a gentle tune that drifts through the night air. The melody softens expressions, quiets restless thoughts, and enhances the subtle presence of those nearby. Medieval people believed that music, like herbs or gestures, could influence perception, lending a kind of silent elegance to ordinary interactions. Beauty was not only seen, it was felt. You continue toward a hilltop where the village lies spread beneath you, lights glowing softly like scattered stars. The night feels eternal, peaceful, and complete. The village, the forest, the streams, the cottages, the ponds, all of it blends into a harmonious tableau. Medieval beauty reveals itself as an interplay of nature, ritual, relationship, and care. Youth and symmetry, hair and complexion, music and gesture are threads in a tapestry woven slowly, intentionally, and with profound attentiveness. You settle on the hillside, taking a deep, calming breath. The cool air fills your lungs, carrying the subtle fragrance of herbs, smoke, and forest blooms. You feel the rhythm of centuries, the quiet pulse of medieval life, and the layered understanding of beauty as it existed long ago, in gestures, rituals, sound, scent, character, and care. The night enfolds you gently, preparing you to drift further into the final layers of stories, royal secrets, feasts, festivals, and the most intimate rituals that shaped how medieval people nurtured, perceived, and celebrated beauty across every moment of their lives. And as the night stretches quietly, silver light spilling across the village and the fields beyond, you begin to walk slowly toward the heart of the village, where the faint glow of lanterns hints at small gatherings and quiet preparations. The air carries a delicate fragrance of herbs, smoke, and distant flowers, soft and calming, as if the world itself is breathing slowly in rhythm with your footsteps. Every sound, rustling leaves, distant laughter, the soft hum of a stream seems magnified in the stillness, carrying stories hidden in plain sight for centuries. Ahead, a small courtyard opens before you, where a group of villagers has gathered around a low, flickering fire. The flames cast gentle shadows on the walls of the surrounding cottages. Here, the older women prepare for a small festival, weaving garlands from flowers, tying ribbons into careful knots, and arranging herbs in tiny bundles. They speak softly about rituals designed to celebrate beauty, not as a static state, but as a reflection of care, attention, and communal harmony. A welted ribbon, a neatly braided hair strand, a bundle of fragrant herbs all carried symbolic meaning, intended to enhance presence and convey thoughtful intention. You wander closer to watch the preparations. One woman dips her fingers into crushed rose petals and gently presses them onto the cheeks of another, murmuring that the slight flush signifies health, vitality, and grace. Another sprinkles lavender into a small bowl of water, demonstrating that calmness of spirit was considered an integral part of outward charm. Medieval people believed that serenity, attentiveness, and ritual created an aura of attractiveness that could surpass physical perfection. Beauty was deeply relational and harmonized with the natural world. Across the courtyard, an elderly man carefully arranges herbs into tiny sachets to be given as small gifts. He explains that gifts and shared rituals were a subtle way to cultivate admiration and goodwill. Cinnamon for warmth, rosemary for remembrance, lavender for calm, rose petals for attraction, all applied in moderation. Every touch was deliberate, every gesture part of an unspoken language of charm and social grace. Presence, behavior, and care mattered as much as outward appearance, perhaps more. The night deepens, and you follow a narrow cobblestone path toward the small village tavern, where a soft lute melody drifts into the quiet. Inside, a storyteller recounts tales of royal feasts, rare ingredients, and intricate rituals that shaped beauty in courts far beyond the village. Gold powder, crushed pearls, rare oils, and flower pastes were used not only for embellishment, but for subtle influence signals of refinement, knowledge, and careful social navigation. Even minor gestures, a tilt of the head, a sweep of a sleeve, a gentle glance could convey intent, charm, or subtle authority. You leave the tavern and step outside, the soft night air brushing your cheeks. Lanterns illuminate the pathway ahead, leading you toward a small garden where several villagers tend to medicinal and fragrant herbs. The elder herbalist explains how different plants were associated with various aspects of charm: chamomile to soften expression, rosemary to encourage mental clarity, rose petals to enhance warmth and presence. The careful application of these herbs steeped in gentle rituals was central to medieval perceptions of allure. Beauty was not instantaneous, but cultivated slowly through attention, practice, and respect for nature's subtle gifts. You continue walking and encounter a small wooden bridge over a gently flowing creek. On the far side, a group of young women braids flowers into each other's hair, whispering softly about seasonal festivals. Hair, in medieval culture, was not simply decorative, it was expressive, signaling age, marital status, and personal grace. A carefully arranged braid conveyed patience and skill. Loose hair indicated celebration, freedom, or youth. The act of caring for one another, exchanging advice, and participating in these rituals emphasized that beauty was a shared experience, cultivated within community rather than isolated vanity. From the bridge, a faint melody of a flute drifts across the water. Following the sound, you find a musician seated on a small hill, plucking strings softly, the notes rising and falling with deliberate calm. Music, in medieval belief, was integral to charm. It enhanced presence, softened gestures, and shaped the rhythm of social interaction. A gentle tune could make eyes shine brighter, voices sound warmer, and gestures appear more graceful. Sound, movement, and scent together formed a subtle, multi-layered definition of attractiveness. The path leads you to a quiet hilltop overlooking the village. Lanterns twinkle faintly below, illuminating cottages, gardens, and fields in a gentle, scattered glow. You sit on the grass and watch the serene rhythm of life, couples walking slowly hand in hand, children chasing fireflies, elders tending quietly to tasks, and villagers sharing smiles and gestures of mutual care. Beauty, you realize, was relational. It existed in attentiveness, patience, and harmonious interaction. A gentle smile, calm voice, steady hands, and thoughtful presence conveyed charm more profoundly than ornate garments or fleeting physical features. Near the edge of the hill, an elderly woman arranges bundles of herbs and flowers, her hands steady and deliberate. She explains that care for others, attention to detail, and ritual practice were considered central to medieval attractiveness. Even seemingly small acts, guiding hair, preparing herbal sachets, or offering a gentle smile were imbued with meaning. Beauty extended beyond appearance into action, intention, and presence, reflecting an alignment between the self, the community, and the natural world. You leave the hill and follow a narrow path to a quiet pond. Its still water mirrors the moon and stars, creating a sense of infinite depth. Here, medieval beliefs connected calmness of spirit with outward charm. Serenity in posture, clarity in gaze, and composure in movement were considered essential. A person's presence could inspire admiration, warmth, and comfort, qualities more enduring than fleeting physical traits. Even the simplest gestures, when performed with mindfulness, contributed to perceived attractiveness. From the pond, a trail winds toward the village square, illuminated by lanterns casting soft reflections on cobblestones. You notice children caring gently for small animals, elders supervising with patience, and villagers engaging in quiet conversation. Charm in medieval life was measured not only by outward adornment, but also by kindness, attention, and respectful interaction. The alignment of behavior, expression, and social harmony created a form of beauty that was both subtle and profound, woven deeply into daily life. You continue along the path to a small chapel, where candlelight flickers through narrow windows. Inside, an elder monk speaks softly about spiritual beauty. Patience, humility, virtue, and kindness radiate outward, shaping how one is perceived across all ages. Medieval people understood that youth fades, appearances change, but character endures. True beauty emerges through consistent care, ethical behavior, and harmonious presence, reflecting a profound alignment between inner and outer life. Stepping outside the chapel, you wander to a gentle hillside overlooking the village, soft grass beneath your feet. Lanterns glow faintly, and the quiet rhythm of life unfolds below, work, ritual, rest, and small acts of care blending seamlessly. The night is alive with stories, rituals, and gestures of charm. You realize medieval beauty was cultivated over time, expressed through subtle practices, intentional gestures, and relational harmony, blending appearance, character, and presence into a gentle, enduring elegance. You settle on the hillside, breathing deeply, feeling the night enfold you. The village below is calm, the stars above shimmering, and the soft wind carries scents of herbs, flowers, and smoke. The rhythm of centuries pulses gently around you, each story, ritual, and gesture a thread in the intricate tapestry of medieval life. You are enveloped by the serene understanding that beauty is relational, intentional, and ever-changing, cultivated through care, patience, ritual, and presence. From this vantage point, the village seems timeless. Lanterns flicker, shadows stretch softly across fields and cottages, and the distant sound of a lute drifts on the night air. You sense that the next layer of story awaits: royal customs, secret feasts, rare remedies, and intimate rituals that shaped medieval perceptions of beauty in both private and public life. The night, deep and calm, carries you forward gently, as though each step is a bridge across centuries of human attention, care, and delicate charm. And as the night deepens, the soft glow of lanterns stretching across the village, you find yourself wandering along a narrow cobblestone path that leads toward the outskirts, where the air is cooler and carries the subtle fragrance of pine, wildflowers, and distant smoke. Every step feels like a gentle meditation, as if walking slowly through the pages of a long-forgotten story. The silence of the night is not empty. It hums softly with history, ritual, and the quiet pulse of human life, carrying lessons about charm, presence, and the delicate practices of beauty cultivated across centuries. Ahead, you notice a small stone cottage with a softly glowing window. Inside, an elder woman arranges tiny bundles of herbs, petals, and small trinkets. She welcomes you with a quiet nod and explains how royal customs influenced the ideals of beauty, even in small villages. Noble courts prized pale skin, delicate hands, and graceful movement, often creating rituals that emphasized careful grooming, posture, and social etiquette. Even ordinary villagers absorbed fragments of these practices, interpreting them in ways that were practical, subtle, and harmonious with daily life. You watch as she demonstrates a simple ritual, a small cloth dipped in rosewater pressed lightly on the cheeks to enhance natural warmth, a gentle brushing of hair to create smoothness and shine, and a careful arrangement of flowers or ribbons to convey charm. Each gesture is slow, deliberate, and rooted in attentiveness to both self and observer. Medieval beauty, she explains, was never hurried. It unfolded over time, shaped by ritual care and relational awareness. Leaving the cottage, you follow a path toward a quiet glade where a small group of villagers is gathered. A lute player strums softly as women braid flowers into each other's hair, exchanging whispered advice about care, charm, and seasonal celebrations. Hair was one of the most expressive markers of beauty. Long, well-kept hair could signal youth, social standing, or festive participation. Braids demonstrated skill, attention, and patience, while loose hair during dances or festivals symbolized freedom and joy. Charm was communicated through subtle gestures, deliberate attention, and shared participation in communal rituals. Near the edge of the glade, a small stream glimmers in the moonlight. Elderly villagers sit by the water, grinding herbs and mixing pastes for skin, hair, and ritual use. Ground almonds softened hands and faces, honey enhanced smoothness, and crushed petals added subtle color. Even minor imperfections, freckles, small scars, or slight asymmetry, were interpreted as unique character, often celebrated as marks of vitality, experience, or personal story. The medieval perspective of beauty blended physical attributes with personality, presence, and the careful cultivation of attention toward oneself and others. The wind carries faint music from a nearby hillside, and you follow the melody to find a small gathering around a fire. Villagers share stories of royal banquets and private feasts, where not only food but ritualized presence mattered. Courtiers would use gestures, speech, subtle glances, and deliberate posture to convey elegance and charm. Special powders, oils, and pastes were applied to enhance natural features without overt display. Even in common villages, these principles influenced subtle beauty practices, emphasizing care, composure, and attentiveness over flashiness or excess. You continue along the path to a small wooden bridge over a creek. On the far side, a group of young women sits weaving ribbons into small bundles for upcoming seasonal festivals. Each ribbon carries meaning, often symbolic of affection, respect, or aspiration. Medieval beauty practices were intertwined with social rituals, preparing for gatherings, maintaining harmony within families, and signaling respect or admiration through careful, deliberate gestures. Presence, attentiveness, and participation were valued as much as physical appearance. From the bridge, you follow a winding trail to a small hill overlooking the village. Lanterns glow faintly below, illuminating cottages, gardens, and pathways. Sitting quietly on the grass, you observe the rhythm of life, elders tending tasks calmly, children playing softly, couples walking hand in hand, villagers sharing smiles and gestures of care. Medieval beauty, you realize, was relational. It emerged through behavior, gesture, presence, and attentiveness. Kindness, patience, and deliberate care were as significant as pale skin, smooth hands, or symmetrical features. On the hill, you notice an elder carefully arranging small jars of herbs and petals. She explains that subtle fragrances lavender, rose, rosemary were believed to influence perception, calming the spirit and enhancing presence. Even small gestures of attention, helping another, sharing herbs, or arranging hair neatly, were considered expressions of charm. Beauty extended beyond individual appearance into interactions, rituals, and communal harmony. You continue toward a quiet pond reflecting the stars and the moon. The water is perfectly still, and you feel a deep calm as you sit at its edge. Medieval people often connected serenity, calm expression, and composed movements with beauty. A person who carried themselves with quiet dignity, patience, and attentiveness was considered attractive across age, status, and circumstance. Charm and allure were embedded in the rhythm of life, ritual, and relational presence, rather than in superficial embellishment alone. From the pond, you follow a narrow path toward a village square where lanterns glow faintly on worn cobblestones. You notice children tending small animals under the watchful eyes of elders, couples walking slowly together, and villagers engaged in calm conversation. Attentiveness, shared responsibility, and harmonious action were markers of beauty in daily life. Even the simplest gestures, tidying hair, offering a gentle smile, or speaking softly conveyed charm, demonstrating the enduring medieval principle that beauty is relational, intentional, and cultivated over time. Continuing toward a chapel illuminated by candlelight, you witness an elder monk arranging hymnals while speaking softly about spiritual beauty. Patience, humility, virtue, and gentle attentiveness radiated outward, enhancing perceived charm in ways that transcended youth, complexion, or symmetry. Medieval beliefs emphasized that character endures where appearance fades. Kindness, ethical action, and composure created lasting impressions, forming the most enduring aspects of beauty. Leaving the chapel, you wander to a gentle hillside overlooking the village. Lanterns flicker below as the quiet rhythm of life unfolds. Elderly villagers carefully tend gardens, children chase fireflies, and couples walk slowly hand in hand. Ritual, care, attentiveness, and relational harmony blend to create subtle expressions of charm. Beauty is cultivated over time, in both private practices and shared activities, revealing itself as a living, dynamic interplay of intention, presence, and gesture. You sit on the hillside, breathing deeply, feeling the night air and the rhythm of centuries pulsing softly around you. The village below is calm, the stars above shimmering. Every story, ritual, and act of attentiveness weaves into the medieval understanding of beauty, relational, deliberate, subtle, and enduring. Soft music, carefully applied herbs, deliberate grooming, gentle gestures, and communal rituals all contribute to a nuanced perception of charm that transcends fleeting appearances. The soft rustle of leaves, the faint distant melody of a lute, and the gentle flicker of lanterns wrap the night around you like a silken blanket. You feel the medieval world settling into your awareness, the lessons of care, attention, ritual, and harmonious presence, forming a tapestry that is at once subtle, profound, and deeply calming. The night carries you gently, preparing your mind and body for sleep, while the stories of charm, allure, and beauty continue to echo softly through the centuries. Like the slow, deliberate pulse of a world both distant and intimately human. And as you rise slowly from the hillside, the cool night air brushing gently across your face, you follow a winding path that leads toward the forest's edge. The moonlight filters softly through the leaves, casting delicate, shifting patterns across the ground, and each step feels like a meditation, a slow passage through centuries of human thought, ritual, and understanding. The quiet rustle of the trees above, the distant murmur of a creek, and the faint glow of lanterns in the village below create a serene rhythm that carries you deeper into the medieval world, where charm, beauty, and presence intertwined seamlessly with daily life. Ahead, you notice a small cluster of cottages partially hidden by trees. Inside one, an elder woman arranges tiny jars of herbs, petals, and fragrant oils. She smiles softly as she explains how seasonal festivals influenced beauty practices. Spring and summer were times for vibrant colors, fresh flowers, and soft fragrances, while autumn and winter rituals emphasized warmth, protection, and inner calm. Flowers, herbs, and oils were not only decorative, they were symbolic, subtle markers of vitality, health, and attentiveness. Medieval beauty extended beyond the face and body into the careful cultivation of an atmosphere around oneself, a kind of invisible charm woven into the air through scent, sound, and ritual. You wander to a nearby glade where young women sit in a circle braiding ribbons and flowers into their hair. They whisper quietly about upcoming festivities, how certain colors and combinations symbolize hope, kindness, or admiration, how a carefully arranged braid can signal social grace, and how subtle gestures folding a sleeve just so, adjusting a ribbon, or tilting the head communicate charm without words. Even in villages far from noble courts, these traditions persist quietly, demonstrating the slow, deliberate cultivation of presence and relational awareness that defined medieval beauty. Beyond the glade, you follow the path toward a small bridge over a softly flowing creek. On the far side, an elderly man tends to a herb garden. He explains the belief that minor imperfections, freckles, small scars, or slightly uneven features could convey unique character, vitality, and personal history. These marks were not hidden or feared. They were embraced as part of the story of the individual. Beauty was, in medieval life, less about symmetry and more about authenticity, care, and the harmonious blending of body, character, and presence. You continue to a quiet pond reflecting the stars and the moon. Elderly villagers sit nearby, grinding herbs, mixing pastes, and performing gentle rituals of self-care. Ground almonds for softness, honey for smoothness, rose petals for subtle warmth, and delicate oils for calming fragrance, all carefully applied to enhance natural charm rather than to drastically alter appearance. Rituals were deliberate, slow, and relational, often shared among family or friends, teaching attentiveness, patience, and empathy alongside practical self-care. From the pond, you follow a winding trail toward a small village square, softly illuminated by lanterns. Villagers engage in calm tasks, preparing food, tending animals, mending clothing, and quietly assisting one another. Every gesture, however small, carries meaning. A kind word, a gentle touch, or a patient smile contributes to perceived charm as much as external adornment. Medieval beauty, you sense, was deeply intertwined with relational awareness, mutual care, and consistent attention over time. You pause near a small chapel where candlelight flickers through narrow windows. Inside, an elder monk arranges hymnals and speaks softly about spiritual beauty. Patience, humility, virtue, and calm attentiveness radiate outward, shaping presence in ways that endure beyond fleeting appearances. True charm, he says, comes from aligning inner life with outward behavior, cultivating harmony, and attending carefully to others. Youth fades, features shift, but deliberate care, kindness, and composure endure as enduring markers of beauty. Leaving the chapel, you wander toward a gentle hillside overlooking the village. Lanterns glow faintly below, illuminating cottages, fields, and small gardens. Elderly villagers carefully arrange small bundles of herbs, children chase fireflies, and couples walk hand in hand, their movements slow and harmonious. Beauty is cultivated through presence, attentiveness, and ritual, both personal and communal. Charm emerges through the alignment of gesture, movement, care, and intentional action. The medieval ideal demonstrates that beauty is relational, deliberate, and deeply human. A soft flute melody drifts from a nearby glade. You follow the sound to find a musician playing for a handful of villagers seated on soft grass. Music was believed to enhance presence and soften expression, lending elegance and subtle charm to both gestures and conversation. Eyes brighten, voices sound warmer, and interactions feel more harmonious when accompanied by melody. Beauty, in this understanding, was multisensory, woven from sight, sound, scent, and relational attention into a subtle, living tapestry. From the glade, you move to a small bridge arching over a gently flowing stream. Elderly villagers sit nearby, arranging petals, herbs, and ribbons into small bundles. Each bundle carries symbolic meaning: lavender for calm, rosemary for memory, rose petals for affection, and carefully chosen colors for social signaling. The act of preparing, sharing, and gifting these bundles conveys attentiveness, kindness, and social harmony, demonstrating that medieval beauty extended beyond personal adornment into careful cultivation of relationships. You continue along the path toward a hilltop with a clear view of the village below. Lanterns glow softly, cottages and fields illuminated in scattered pools of light. From this vantage point, you observe the quiet rhythm of life: elders tending their gardens, children caring for small animals, couples walking together, villagers sharing small gestures of kindness. Charm is relational, emerging from attentiveness, patience, and deliberate, thoughtful interaction. Even the simplest acts: dying hair, offering a soft smile, arranging herbs are expressions of beauty, teaching that charm is woven into daily life. Near the edge of the hill, an elder woman arranges jars of herbs and flowers, explaining how scent, touch, and ritual enhance natural presence. Subtle fragrances calm the spirit, gestures communicate care, and shared practices cultivate harmony. Beauty is embedded in interaction, ritual, and attentiveness, extending outward in ways both seen and felt. Every action carries meaning, every touch conveys intention, and every smile or word can enhance perception subtly yet profoundly. You wander to a quiet pond reflecting moonlight and stars. The water ripples faintly as a breeze passes, and you feel a deep sense of calm. Medieval beliefs connected serenity, composure, and attentiveness with charm. Movement, expression, and presence were carefully observed, and those who cultivated calmness, patience, and relational awareness were considered most attractive. Beauty was a living quality, evolving through time, attention, and practice. From the pond, a narrow path leads to the village square. Lanterns glow faintly, illuminating cobblestones and softly swaying herbs in window boxes. Villagers move with deliberate calm, tending daily tasks, interacting gently, and demonstrating care for each other and the world around them. Medieval beauty was relational, cultivated through consistent attentiveness, care, and harmonious interaction rather than superficial display. Every smile, gesture, and act of assistance contributes to charm and presence, weaving a subtle tapestry of allure across the community. You move to a small chapel with flickering candlelight, where an elder monk speaks softly about the enduring nature of spiritual beauty. Virtue, humility, attentiveness, and calm demeanor radiate outward, creating charm that transcends physical appearance. Youth fades, features change, but deliberate care, kindness, and composure endure, forming the most lasting elements of attraction. You leave the chapel and ascend a gentle hillside overlooking the village. Lanterns twinkle below, illuminating cottages, gardens, and pathways. Villagers engage in quiet rituals, tending herbs, braiding hair, preparing small gifts, and sharing music. Charm is cultivated through intentional, relational practices that blend attention, care, and presence. Beauty is not static but evolving, shaped by ritual, behavior, and interaction. You sit quietly on the hillside, breathing deeply. The night air is cool, filled with the faint scent of herbs, flowers, and distant wood smoke. The rhythm of medieval life unfolds below: attentive gestures, deliberate routines, communal rituals, and quiet celebrations of charm. Music, scent, ritual, and relational awareness converge to create subtle, enduring expressions of beauty. From the hillside, the village appears timeless. Lanterns flicker softly, shadows stretch across fields and cottages, and the distant melody of a lute drifts through the night. The lessons of medieval beauty: care, ritual, attentiveness, patience, and relational presence are woven into the atmosphere, surrounding you with calm, serenity, and a gentle understanding of human charm across centuries. And as you rise from the hillside, the night stretches before you like a soft, endless fabric, silver and quiet, the stars above reflected faintly in puddles along the cobblestone path. You begin walking slowly toward the edge of the village. where small cottages nestle among fields and trees, and the gentle rustle of leaves accompanies your every step. The air is cool, carrying the faint fragrance of herbs, pine, and distant wood smoke. Every sound, every shadow, every flicker of lantern light seems to carry centuries of knowledge, stories of beauty, charm, and the subtle rituals that shaped life in medieval times. Ahead, a small wooden bridge spans a softly flowing creek, its water gleaming in the moonlight. Across the bridge, an elderly woman tends to a patch of herbs and flowers. She greets you with a gentle nod and explains how medieval festivals influenced perceptions of beauty and grace. Seasonal changes dictated subtle variations in attire, fragrance, and hair arrangement. Springtime favored fresh blooms, light fragrances, and soft hues, while autumn emphasized warmth, earthy tones, and deeper, calming scents. Each adjustment, she says, was not only practical but deeply symbolic, reflecting harmony with the natural world and mindfulness in personal presentation. You continue past the herb garden, approaching a small glade where young women are braiding flowers and ribbons into each other's hair. Their whispered instructions blend with the soft notes of a distant flute. Tie the ribbon just so. Weave the petals carefully. Adjust the braid gently. Hair was one of the most expressive markers of charm, signaling age, status, marital prospects, and personal grace. A perfectly arranged braid conveyed patience and skill, while loose hair during celebration symbolized youth, freedom, and joy. Beauty, in these moments, was relational, shared, deliberate, and communicated through subtle gestures and attentive presence. Nearby, a group of villagers sits quietly around a small fire, grinding herbs and mixing pastes. Ground almonds for softening skin, honey for smoothness, rose petals for a gentle flush, and delicate oils for fragrance. Each was applied with care to enhance natural presence rather than to alter it drastically. Elderly villagers demonstrate these rituals to younger members, teaching patience, attention, and the understanding that true charm develops over time, through practice, care, and attentiveness to both self and others. The soft melody of a lute drifts across the glade. You follow the sound to a musician seated on a gentle rise. His slow, deliberate notes seem to make the night itself pause, softening expressions and lending a subtle elegance to the gestures of those nearby. Medieval people believed music could amplify charm, enhancing presence, softening movement, and making interactions more harmonious. Beauty, in this sense, was multisensory. It existed in sound, movement, scent, and relational attentiveness, all woven together into a living, subtle tapestry. From the glade, you wander to a small pond, perfectly still, reflecting the moon and stars above. Elderly villagers sit nearby, arranging flowers, herbs, and small bundles of scented oils. Each bundle carries symbolic meaning: lavender for calm, rosemary for memory, rose petals for warmth, and ribbons or colors to convey social signals. Even the smallest gesture, a carefully tied ribbon, a thoughtfully prepared herb bundle, or a gentle touch, was a reflection of charm. Beauty extended beyond personal appearance into careful cultivation of environment, presence, and relationship. You follow the pond's edge toward a narrow trail leading to the village square. Lanterns glow softly on worn cobblestones, casting warm reflections on small gardens and window boxes. Villagers go about evening tasks quietly, tending animals, preparing simple meals, and assisting one another with patience and care. Every action contributes to perceived charm, demonstrating that medieval beauty was relational and deeply human. Small gestures, a kind word, a soft smile, attentiveness, and patience carried as much significance as physical appearance or attire. From the square, the trail winds toward a quiet chapel. Candlelight flickers through narrow windows, and inside, an elder monk arranges hymns. He speaks softly about the enduring nature of spiritual beauty. Patience, humility, virtue, and calm attentiveness radiate outward, shaping perception beyond fleeting appearances. Youth and symmetry fade, but deliberate care, kindness, and composure endure as lasting elements of charm. True beauty, he explains, emerges from alignment between inner character and outward presence, a harmony cultivated over time. Leaving the chapel, you wander up a gentle hill overlooking the village. Lanterns glow faintly below, illuminating cottages, fields, and small gardens. Elderly villagers carefully arrange herbs and petals. Children chase softly glowing fireflies, and couples walk together slowly, their gestures harmonious and deliberate. Charm and beauty are cultivated in these relational practices, through shared attention, careful ritual, and gentle awareness of one's environment and companions. The medieval understanding of beauty is not static, it is dynamic, subtle, and woven into daily life. A soft, distant melody drifts from a hidden glade. You follow it to a musician playing for a small gathering. Music enhances presence, softening gestures, lifting expressions, and harmonizing social interactions. A simple smile, a calm voice, or a deliberate gesture becomes more luminous when accompanied by the gentle rhythm of sound. In medieval life, beauty was a multisensory tapestry, combining sight, sound, scent, movement, and relational attention in a seamless flow. From the musician, you wander toward a quiet bridge over the creek. Elderly villagers sit nearby, preparing small bundles of herbs and petals. Each bundle is symbolic: lavender for serenity, rosemary for clarity, rose petals for warmth, and careful colors to signify social or personal meaning. The act of preparation, offering, and sharing demonstrates attentiveness, kindness, and relational harmony, showing that medieval beauty extended beyond individual appearance into deliberate, meaningful interaction. You continue up the hill to a vantage point overlooking the village below. Lanterns twinkle faintly, cottages and fields glowing softly in scattered light. You watch the quiet rhythm of life, elders tending gardens, children playing gently, couples walking hand in hand, villagers exchanging gestures of care. Charm is cultivated relationally, through patience, attentiveness, and deliberate, harmonious action. Even small gestures, tidying hair, offering a kind smile, arranging herbs communicate beauty, demonstrating that charm is embedded in daily life, ritual, and interaction. Near the edge of the hill, an elder woman arranges jars of herbs and flowers, speaking softly about scent, touch, and ritual as enhancements to natural presence. Fragrance calms, gestures communicate care, and shared practices cultivate harmony and attention. Beauty is relational, intentional, and subtle, existing in gesture, action, and attentiveness. Every small act contributes to perceived charm, forming a tapestry of deliberate care and quiet presence. You walk to a quiet pond reflecting the moon and stars. The water ripples softly as a breeze passes, and you feel deep calm settle over you. Medieval beliefs associated serenity, composure, and attentiveness with charm. Movement, expression, and presence were carefully observed, and those cultivating patience, calm, and relational awareness were considered most attractive. Beauty was living, evolving through time, attention, and deliberate practice. From the pond, a narrow path leads to the village square. Lanterns glow softly on cobblestones, herbs sway gently in window boxes. Villagers move deliberately, performing tasks, interacting gently, and showing care for one another. Medieval beauty was relational, cultivated through attentive, harmonious action rather than mere physical display. Small gestures, tidying hair, offering a gentle smile, or speaking softly expressed charm, weaving an enduring and subtle network of presence and allure across the community. You move to a small chapel with flickering candlelight. An elder monk speaks softly about spiritual beauty. Patience, humility, attentiveness, and calm demeanor radiate outward, enhancing perceived charm beyond physical appearance. Youth fades, features shift, but deliberate care, kindness, and composure endure, forming the most lasting aspects of attraction. You leave the chapel and ascend a gentle hillside overlooking the village. Lanterns twinkle below, illuminating cottages, gardens, and paths. Villagers perform quiet rituals, tending herbs, braiding hair, preparing small gifts, and sharing music. Charm is cultivated through intentional, relational practices blending attention, care, and presence. Beauty is not static, it is evolving, shaped by ritual, behavior, and interaction. You sit on the hillside, breathing slowly. The night air carries herbs, flowers, and faint wood. The rhythm of medieval life unfolds below. Attentive gestures, deliberate routines, communal rituals, and quiet celebrations of charm. Music, scent, ritual, and relational awareness converge to create subtle, enduring beauty. From the hillside, the village feels timeless. Lanterns flicker softly, shadows stretch over fields and cottages, and a distant lute melody drifts through the night. Medieval lessons of care, ritual, attentiveness, patience, and relational presence envelop you, wrapping the night in calm, serenity, and gentle understanding of human charm across centuries. And as you rise from the hillside, the night stretches before you, soft and endless, silver and quiet, with stars scattered like tiny lanterns across the sky. You begin to walk slowly along a winding path that leads toward the outer fields, where cottages nestle among trees, and the faint rustle of leaves accompanies every step. The air is cool, fragrant with herbs, pine and distant smoke, carrying the quiet rhythm of centuries. Every sound, every shadow, every flicker of lantern light seems filled with stories of charm, beauty, and the subtle, deliberate rituals that shaped medieval life. Ahead, you notice a small wooden bridge spanning a gently flowing creek, its surface gleaming in the moonlight. Across the bridge, an elderly woman tends a small herb and flower garden. She smiles and explains how villagers adapted royal customs into their daily lives. Pale skin, delicate hands, and graceful gestures were admired in noble courts, but in villages, these ideals translated into calm presence, attentive gestures, and deliberate care. Even subtle rituals, gently brushing hair, arranging ribbons, preparing fragrant oils were seen as ways to cultivate charm and convey respect toward oneself and others. You follow the path to a quiet glade where young women braid flowers and ribbons into each other's hair. They whisper softly about how colors, flowers, and braids carry meaning: red for warmth, white for purity, blue for hope, and certain flowers for affection or respect. Hair was deeply expressive. A braid signaled skill, patience, and social grace. Loose hair during festivals conveyed youth, freedom, and joy. Medieval beauty was relational, communicated through attention, shared practice, and subtle gestures, rather than ostentatious display. Near the glade, a group of villagers sits around a small fire, grinding herbs and mixing pastes. Ground almonds for softness, honey for smoothness, rose petals for a subtle flush, and delicate oils for fragrance, each carefully applied to enhance natural presence without altering features drastically. The process is slow, deliberate, and relational, teaching patience, attentiveness, and empathy alongside practical self-care. Charm was cultivated gradually, through mindful action, care, and awareness of how presence affects others. Soft notes from a distant lute drift across the glade. Following the sound, you find a musician seated on a gentle rise, plucking strings slowly. Each note seems to soften expressions, enhance gestures, and lend subtle elegance to interactions. Medieval people believed music could amplify charm, harmonizing movement, sound, and social presence. Beauty was multisensory. It existed in sight, sound, scent, and relational attentiveness, all woven together into a living tapestry of subtle elegance. From the musician, you move to a quiet pond reflecting the moon and stars. Elderly villagers sit nearby, arranging flowers, herbs, and small jars of scented oils. Each bundle carries symbolic meaning: lavender for calm, rosemary for clarity, rose petals for warmth, and colored ribbons to signal social or personal intention. The act of preparing, sharing, and gifting these bundles demonstrates attentiveness, kindness, and social harmony. Beauty extended beyond appearance into interaction, ritual, and relational awareness. Following the pond's edge, you enter the village square. Lanterns glow softly on worn cobblestones, highlighting gardens, window boxes, and small decorative touches. Villagers move deliberately, performing tasks, interacting gently, and showing care for one another. Every gesture contributes to perceived charm: a kind word, a gentle smile, attentiveness, and patience. Medieval beauty was relational, cultivated through consistent, harmonious action rather than superficial display. Small, mindful gestures became expressions of lasting elegance. From the square, you follow a path to a quiet chapel illuminated by candlelight. Inside, an elder monk arranges hymnals and speaks softly about spiritual beauty. Patience, humility, attentiveness, and calm demeanor radiate outward, shaping perception beyond physical appearance. Youth and symmetry fade, but deliberate care, kindness, and composure endure, forming the most lasting aspects of charm. Alignment of inner character with outward action was central to medieval ideals of beauty. Leaving the chapel, you wander toward a gentle hillside overlooking the village. Lanterns twinkle faintly, illuminating cottages, gardens, and winding paths. Villagers perform quiet rituals, tending herbs, braiding hair, preparing small gifts, and sharing music. Charm was cultivated through intentional, relational practices, blending attention, care, and presence. Beauty was dynamic, evolving through ritual, behavior, and interaction rather than being fixed or superficial. A distant melody drifts from a hidden glade. You follow it to a musician playing for a small gathering. Music enhanced presence, softened gestures, and harmonized social interactions. A simple smile, calm voice, or deliberate gesture became more luminous when accompanied by subtle rhythms. In medieval life, beauty was multisensory. It was woven from sight, sound, scent, movement, and relational awareness into a living, subtle, and enduring form. From the musician, you wander toward a small bridge arching over the creek. Elderly villagers sit nearby, preparing bundles of herbs and petals. Each bundle is symbolic: lavender for serenity, rosemary for memory, rose petals for warmth, and carefully chosen ribbons for social meaning. Preparation, sharing, and gifting reflected attentiveness, kindness, and relational harmony, showing that medieval beauty extended beyond self-presentation into meaningful interaction. Ascending the hill, you gain a vantage point overlooking the village below. Lanterns glow faintly, cottages and fields bathed in soft light. The rhythm of life unfolds slowly: elders tending gardens, children playing quietly, couples walking hand in hand, villagers exchanging gentle gestures of care. Charm was relational, emerging from patience, attentiveness, and harmonious action. Even minor gestures, tidying hair, offering a soft smile, or arranging herbs communicated beauty, demonstrating that charm is embedded in ritual, presence, and daily life. Near the edge of the hill, an elder woman arranges jars of herbs and flowers, speaking softly about scent, touch, and ritual. Subtle fragrances calm, gestures communicate care, and shared practices cultivate harmony. Beauty was relational and intentional, existing in actions and attentiveness. Every small act contributes to perceived charm, weaving a subtle tapestry of deliberate care and quiet presence across the community. You walk to a quiet pond reflecting the moon and stars. The water ripples faintly in the breeze, and a deep calm settles over you. Serenity, composure, and attentiveness were strongly associated with charm in medieval belief. Movement, expression, and presence were observed carefully, and those who cultivated calmness, patience, and relational awareness were considered most attractive. Beauty was living, evolving, through attention, practice, and interaction over time. From the pond, a narrow path leads to the village square. Lanterns glow softly on cobblestones, herbs sway gently in window boxes. Villagers perform their tasks calmly, interacting gently, and showing care for one another. Medieval beauty was relational, cultivated through attentive, harmonious action rather than superficial display. Even the smallest gestures, dying hair, offering a smile, speaking softly, were expressions of charm, weaving subtle, enduring threads of presence across the community. You move to a small chapel with flickering candlelight. An elder monk speaks softly about spiritual beauty. Patience, humility, attentiveness, and calm demeanor radiate outward, enhancing perceived charm beyond mere physical appearance. Youth fades, features change, but deliberate care, kindness, and composure endure as lasting elements of attraction. Leaving the chapel, you ascend a gentle hillside overlooking the village. Lanterns twinkle below, illuminating cottages, gardens, and pathways. Villagers engage in quiet rituals, tending herbs, braiding hair, preparing small gifts, and sharing music. Charm was cultivated through relational practices, attention, care, and deliberate presence. Beauty was dynamic, shaped by ritual, interaction, and presence, rather than static appearance. You sit quietly on the hillside, breathing slowly, feeling the night enfold you. The village below is calm, the stars above shimmering. Every story, ritual, and act of attentiveness weaves into the medieval understanding of beauty: relational, deliberate, subtle, and enduring. Soft music, carefully applied herbs, deliberate grooming, gentle gestures, and communal rituals all contribute to nuanced perception of charm across time. The gentle rustle of leaves, the faint melody of a lute, and the soft glow of lanterns wrap the night around you like a silken blanket. You sense the medieval world settling into your awareness, the lessons of care, attentiveness, ritual, and relational presence forming a tapestry both subtle and profound. The night carries you gently, preparing your mind and body for calm sleep, while the stories of medieval beauty, charm, and presence echo softly through centuries, like the quiet, deliberate rhythm of a world, both distant and intimately human. And as the night wraps softly around you, silver light spilling across the village, you follow a narrow, winding path that leads toward the fields beyond. where cottages are nestled among darkened trees and the distant rustle of leaves marks the gentle rhythm of the evening. The air is cool, carrying the faint scent of herbs, pine, and distant wood smoke. Each step feels deliberate, slow, as if moving through centuries, absorbing the lessons of charm, beauty, and careful attention that shaped medieval life. Every shadow, every sound, every flicker of lantern light holds stories of subtle rituals, communal care, and the quiet cultivation of presence. Ahead, a small wooden bridge crosses a creek that glimmers faintly in the moonlight. Across the bridge, an elderly woman tends to a small herb and flower garden. She greets you softly and explains how noble ideals of beauty influenced village practices. Pale skin, delicate hands, and graceful movement were prized in courts. But for villagers, these ideals were translated into calm presence, deliberate gestures, and mindful care. Subtle routines, brushing hair, arranging ribbons, preparing scented oils were considered ways to cultivate charm while showing respect for oneself and others. Beauty was as much about presence and action as it was about appearance. You continue past the garden to a quiet glade, where young women braid flowers and ribbons into each other's hair. They whisper about symbolism in colors and styles. Red for warmth, white for purity, blue for hope, and certain flowers for affection or respect. A braid demonstrates skill, patience, and social grace. Loose hair during festivities signals youth, freedom, and joy. Medieval beauty was relational, communicated through shared ritual, careful gesture, and attentive presence rather than through flamboyant display. Near the glade, villagers sit quietly around a small fire, grinding herbs and mixing pastes. Ground almonds soften skin, honey smooths it, rose petals add a subtle flush, and delicate oils provide fragrance. Each application is slow, deliberate, and relational, teaching patience, attentiveness, and empathy alongside practical self-care. Charm develops gradually, through mindful actions, care, and an awareness of how presence affects others. Soft notes from a distant lute drift through the trees. Following the melody, you find a musician seated on a gentle rise. Each note seems to soften the expressions of those nearby, lending subtle elegance to gestures and interactions. Medieval people believed music amplified charm, harmonizing movement, sound, and social presence. Beauty was multisensory. It existed in sight, sound, scent, and relational attentiveness, all woven into a living tapestry of subtle elegance. From the musician, you wander toward a quiet pond reflecting the stars and moon. Elderly villagers sit nearby, arranging flowers, herbs, and jars of scented oils. Each bundle carries symbolic meaning: lavender for serenity, rosemary for clarity, rose petals for warmth, and ribbons for personal or social signaling. Preparation, sharing, and gifting reflect attentiveness, kindness, and relational harmony, showing that beauty extended beyond self-presentation into meaningful interaction. Following the pond's edge, you walk toward the village square. Lanterns glow softly on worn cobblestones, highlighting gardens, window boxes, and small decorative touches. Villagers move deliberately, performing tasks, interacting gently, and caring for one another. Every gesture contributes to perceived charm: a kind word, a soft smile, attentiveness, patience. Medieval beauty was relational, cultivated through consistent, harmonious action rather than through superficial display. Small, mindful gestures became expressions of lasting elegance. From the square, a path leads to a quiet chapel illuminated by candlelight. Inside, an elder monk arranges hymnals and speaks softly about spiritual beauty. Patience, humility, attentiveness, and calm demeanor radiate outward, shaping perception beyond physical appearance. Youth and symmetry fade, but deliberate care, kindness, and composure endure, forming the most lasting aspects of charm. Alignment of inner character with outward action was central to medieval ideals of beauty. Leaving the chapel, you wander up a gentle hillside overlooking the village. Lanterns twinkle faintly below, illuminating cottages, gardens, and winding paths. Villagers perform quiet rituals, tending herbs, braiding hair, preparing small gifts, sharing music. Charm was cultivated through relational practices, attention, care, and deliberate presence. Beauty was dynamic, evolving through ritual, behavior, and interaction rather than fixed appearance. A distant melody drifts from a hidden glade. You follow it to a musician playing for a small gathering. Music enhanced presence, softened gestures, harmonized social interactions. A simple smile, calm voice, or deliberate gesture became more luminous when accompanied by gentle rhythm. Beauty was multisensory, woven from sight, sound, scent, movement, and relational awareness into a living, enduring form. From the musician, you wander to a small bridge over the creek. Elderly villagers sit nearby, preparing bundles of herbs and petals. Each bundle is symbolic: lavender for serenity, rosemary for memory, rose petals for warmth, ribbons for social meaning. Preparation, sharing, and gifting reflect attentiveness, kindness, and relational harmony, showing that medieval beauty extended into interaction and communal ritual. Ascending the hill, you gain a vantage point overlooking the village. Lanterns glow faintly, cottages and fields bathed in soft light. Life unfolds slowly, elders tending gardens, children playing gently, couples walking hand in hand, villagers exchanging soft gestures of care. Charm is relational, emerging from patience, attentiveness, and harmonious action. Even small gestures, tidying hair, offering a gentle smile, arranging herbs communicate beauty, showing that charm is embedded in ritual, presence, and daily life. Near the edge of the hill, an elder woman arranges jars of herbs and flowers, speaking softly about scent, touch, and ritual. Subtle fragrances calm, gestures communicate care, shared practices cultivate harmony. Beauty was relational and intentional, existing in actions and attentiveness. Every small act contributes to perceived charm, weaving a subtle tapestry of deliberate care and quiet presence across the community. You walk to a quiet pond reflecting moonlight and stars. The water ripples faintly in the breeze, and a deep calm settles over you. Serenity, composure, and attentiveness were associated with charm in medieval belief. Movement, expression, and presence were observed carefully, and those cultivating calmness, patience, and relational awareness were considered most attractive. Beauty was living, evolving, through attention, practice, and interaction. From the pond, a narrow path leads to the village square. Lanterns glow softly, herbs sway gently in window boxes. Villagers perform tasks calmly, interact gently, and show care for one another. Medieval beauty was relational, cultivated through attentive, harmonious action rather than superficial display. Small gestures, tidying hair, offering a gentle smile, speaking softly expressed charm, weaving subtle, enduring threads of presence across the community. You move to a small chapel with flickering candlelight. An elder monk speaks softly about spiritual beauty, patience, humility, attentiveness. Calm demeanor radiate outward, enhancing perceived charm beyond physical appearance. Youth fades, features shift, but deliberate care, kindness, and composure endure as lasting elements of attraction. You leave the chapel and ascend a gentle hillside overlooking the village. Lanterns twinkle below, illuminating cottages, gardens, and paths. Villagers engage in quiet rituals, tending herbs, braiding hair, preparing small gifts, sharing music. Charm was cultivated through relational practices, attention, care, and deliberate presence. Beauty was dynamic, shaped by ritual, interaction, and presence rather than static appearance. You sit quietly on the hillside, breathing slowly, feeling the night enfold you. The village below is calm, the stars above shimmering. Every story, ritual, and act of attentiveness weaves into the medieval understanding of beauty: relational, deliberate, subtle, and enduring. Soft music, carefully applied herbs, grooming, gentle gestures, and communal rituals contribute to nuanced perception of charm across time. The gentle rustle of leaves, the faint melody of a lute, and the soft glow of lanterns wrap the night around you like a silken blanket. You sense the medieval world settling into your awareness. Lessons of care, attentiveness, ritual, and relational presence forming a tapestry both subtle and profound. The night carries you gently, preparing your mind and body for calm sleep, while the stories of medieval beauty, charm, and presence echo softly through centuries. And as the night stretches on, the village below glows softly, lanterns flickering like tiny stars, reflecting gently off cobblestones and water. You walk slowly along a winding path leading toward the meadows beyond, where cottages are nestled among dark trees, and the air carries the faint scent of herbs, pine, and distant wood smoke. Every rustle, every shadow, every subtle movement of lantern light seems imbued with centuries of stories of charm, beauty, and the quiet rituals that shaped medieval life. The night feels alive yet serene, carrying lessons in patience, attentiveness, and the subtle cultivation of presence. Ahead, a small wooden bridge spans a gently flowing creek, its surface reflecting moonlight in silvery streaks. Across the bridge, an elderly woman tends a patch of herbs and flowers. She smiles and explains how ideals of beauty, though shaped in noble courts, were interpreted by villagers in ways that were practical, gentle, and relational. Pale skin, delicate hands, and graceful movements were admired, but charm was cultivated through deliberate gestures, careful grooming, and mindful attention to both self and others. Beauty was not superficial. It was present in intention, action, and harmony with the surrounding world. You wander past the herb garden to a quiet glade, where young women braid ribbons and flowers into each other's hair. They whisper softly about the meanings behind colors and combinations. Red for warmth, white for purity, blue for hope, flowers for affection or respect. Braids demonstrated skill, patience, and grace, while loose hair during celebrations symbolized freedom and youthful joy. Charm, in medieval understanding, was relational and shared, expressed through attentiveness, ritual, and subtle communication rather than through overt display. Near the glade, villagers sit around a small fire, grinding herbs and mixing pastes. Ground almonds softened skin, honey smoothed it, rose petals added a gentle flush, and delicate oils provided fragrance. Each application was slow and deliberate, teaching patience, attentiveness, and empathy alongside practical self-care. Charm developed gradually through mindful action, careful attention, and awareness of how presence affects others. The night air is cool and still, carrying these lessons softly, as though every leaf and ripple holds part of the story. Soft lute music drifts from a distance. You follow the notes to a musician seated on a gentle rise. Each string plucked seems to soften the expressions and movements of those nearby. Medieval people believed music enhanced charm, harmonizing gesture, sound, and social presence. Beauty was multisensory, woven from sight, sound, scent, movement, and relational attentiveness into a living tapestry of subtle elegance. From the musician, you wander toward a quiet pond, reflecting the stars and moon above. Elderly villagers sit nearby, arranging flowers, herbs, and small jars of scented oils. Each bundle carries symbolic meaning: lavender for serenity, rosemary for clarity, rose petals for warmth, and carefully chosen ribbons to signal social or personal intention. Preparation, sharing, and gifting of these bundles reflected attentiveness, kindness, and relational harmony, showing that beauty extended beyond personal appearance into meaningful interaction. Following the pond's edge, you approach the village square. Lanterns glow softly on worn cobblestones, highlighting window boxes and gardens. Villagers move deliberately, performing tasks calmly, interacting gently, and caring for one another. Every gesture contributes to perceived charm: a kind word, a soft smile, patience, and attentiveness. Medieval beauty was relational, cultivated through consistent, harmonious action rather than superficial display. Small, mindful gestures became lasting expressions of elegance. From the square, a path leads to a quiet chapel illuminated by candlelight. Inside, an elder monk arranges hymnals and speaks softly about spiritual beauty. Patience, humility, attentiveness, and calm demeanor radiate outward, shaping perception beyond physical appearance. Youth fades, symmetry shifts, but deliberate care, kindness, and composure endure as the most lasting aspects of charm. Alignment of inner character with outward action was central to medieval ideals of beauty. Leaving the chapel, you wander up a gentle hillside overlooking the village. Lanterns twinkle below, illuminating cottages, gardens, and winding paths. Villagers perform quiet rituals, tending herbs, braiding hair, preparing small gifts, sharing music. Charm is cultivated through relational practices, attention, care, and deliberate presence. Beauty is dynamic, evolving through ritual, behavior, and interaction rather than static appearance. A faint melody drifts from a hidden glade. You follow it to a musician playing for a small gathering. Music softens gestures, harmonizes interaction, and enhances subtle elegance. A smile, a calm voice, or a deliberate gesture becomes more luminous when accompanied by soft melody. Beauty is multisensory, composed of sight, sound, scent, movement, and relational awareness, forming an enduring, living quality. From the musician, you wander to a small bridge over the creek. Elderly villagers sit nearby, preparing bundles of herbs and petals. Each bundle is symbolic: lavender for serenity, rosemary for memory, rose petals for warmth, Ribbons for social meaning. Preparation, sharing, and gifting express attentiveness, kindness, and relational harmony, showing that medieval beauty extended beyond appearance into interaction and communal ritual. Ascending the hill, you gain a vantage point overlooking the village. Lanterns glow softly, cottages and fields bathed in scattered light. Life unfolds slowly, elders tending gardens, children playing quietly, couples walking hand in hand, villagers exchanging gentle gestures of care. Charm is relational, emerging from patience, attentiveness, and harmonious action. Even minor gestures, tidying hair, offering a soft smile, arranging herbs communicate beauty, showing that charm is embedded in ritual, presence, and daily life. Near the hill's edge, an elder woman arranges jars of herbs and flowers, speaking softly about scent, touch, and ritual. Fragrance calms, gestures communicate care, shared practices cultivate harmony. Beauty is relational and intentional, existing in action and attentiveness. Every small act contributes to perceived charm, weaving a subtle tapestry of deliberate care and quiet presence across the village. You walk to a quiet pond reflecting the moon and stars. The water ripples faintly as a breeze passes, and deep calm settles over you. Serenity, composure, and attentiveness were associated with charm in medieval belief. Movement, expression, and presence were observed, and those cultivating calmness, patience, and relational awareness were considered most attractive. Beauty was living, evolving through attention, practice, and interaction. From the pond, a narrow path leads to the village square. Lanterns glow softly on cobblestones, herbs sway gently in window boxes. Villagers perform tasks calmly, interact gently, and care for one another. Medieval beauty was relational, cultivated through attentive, harmonious action rather than superficial display. Even the smallest gestures, tidying hair, offering a smile, speaking softly, were expressions of charm, weaving subtle, enduring threads of presence across the community. He moved to a small chapel with flickering candlelight. An elder monk speaks softly about spiritual beauty. Patience, humility, attentiveness, and calm demeanor radiate outward, enhancing perceived charm beyond physical appearance. Youth fades, features shift, but deliberate care, kindness, and composure endure as lasting elements of attraction. You leave the chapel and ascend a gentle hillside overlooking the village. Lanterns twinkle below, illuminating cottages, gardens, and paths. Villagers engage in quiet rituals, tending herbs, braiding hair, preparing small gifts, sharing music. Charm was cultivated through relational practices, attention, care, and deliberate presence. Beauty was dynamic, shaped by ritual, interaction, and presence, rather than static appearance. You sit quietly on the hillside, breathing slowly, feeling the night enfold you. The village below is calm, stars above shimmering. Every story, ritual, and act of attentiveness weaves into the medieval understanding of beauty, relational, deliberate, subtle, and enduring. Soft music, carefully applied herbs, grooming, gentle gestures, and communal rituals contribute to nuanced perception of charm across time. The gentle rustle of leaves, the faint melody of a lute, and soft glow of lanterns wrap the night around you like a silken blanket. You sense the medieval world settling into your awareness. Lessons of care, attentiveness, ritual, and relational presence, forming a tapestry both subtle and profound. The night carries you gently, preparing your mind and body for calm sleep, while the stories of medieval beauty, charm, and presence echo softly through centuries. And as the night deepens, the cool air wrapping softly around you, you continue along a winding path that leads beyond the village, toward quiet meadows and shadowed groves. The lanterns in the village below flicker faintly, their light reflected on puddles and stone, giving the streets a timeless glow. Every step feels slow, deliberate, as if walking through a story written centuries ago, a story where charm, beauty, and attentive presence are as tangible as the earth beneath your feet. The night hums softly, carrying with it lessons from a time when beauty was as much about ritual and character as it was about appearance. Ahead, a small wooden bridge crosses a gentle creek, the water glimmering in the moonlight. Across the bridge, an elderly woman tends her herb and flower garden. She greets you with a quiet nod and explains how villagers adapted noble ideals of beauty into daily life, while pale skin, delicate hands, and graceful movements were admired in royal courts. Ordinary villagers interpreted these ideals through calm presence, careful gestures, and mindful attention. Brushing hair slowly, arranging ribbons and flowers, preparing subtle oils and pastes all were considered acts of charm and care, extending beauty beyond superficial features into mindful interaction with the world. You wander past the garden to a glade where young women braid flowers and ribbons into each other's hair. They whisper about symbolism in colors and flowers: red for warmth, white for purity, blue for hope, certain blooms for affection or respect. Braids were deliberate expressions of skill and patience, while loose hair during festivals conveyed freedom, youth, and joy. Beauty was relational, expressed through attentiveness, shared ritual, and subtle communication rather than ostentatious display. Nearby, villagers sit around a small fire, grinding herbs and mixing pastes. Ground almonds softened skin, honey smoothed it, rose petals added warmth, delicate oils provided fragrance. Each act was slow and deliberate, teaching patience and attentiveness. Charm developed gradually, through mindful action and awareness of how one's presence affects others. The night carries these lessons softly, as though every rustle of leaves and ripple of water holds part of the story. Soft lute music drifts from a distance. Following it, you find a musician seated on a gentle rise. Each note softens gestures and expressions nearby, lending elegance to movement and interaction. Music was believed to amplify charm, harmonizing gesture, sound, and social presence. Beauty was multisensory, woven from sight, sound, scent, movement, and relational attentiveness, creating a subtle living tapestry. From the musician, you wander to a quiet pond reflecting stars and moonlight. Elderly villagers sit nearby, arranging flowers, herbs, and jars of scented oils. Each bundle carries symbolic meaning: lavender for calm, rosemary for memory, rose petals for warmth, ribbons for social or personal signaling. Preparation, sharing, and gifting expressed attentiveness, kindness, and relational harmony, showing that beauty extended beyond personal appearance into communal ritual and interaction. Following the pond's edge, you approach the village square. Lanterns glow softly, highlighting gardens, window boxes, and small decorative touches. Villagers move deliberately, performing tasks calmly, interacting gently, and caring for one another. Every gesture contributes to perceived charm: a kind word, a soft smile, patience, and attentiveness. Medieval beauty was relational, cultivated through consistent, harmonious action, rather than through superficial display. Small, mindful gestures became lasting expressions of elegance. From the square, a path leads to a quiet chapel illuminated by candlelight. Inside, an elder monk arranges hymnals and speaks softly about spiritual beauty. Patience, humility, attentiveness, and calm demeanor radiate outward, shaping perception beyond physical appearance. Youth fades, symmetry shifts, but deliberate care, kindness, and composure endure as the most lasting aspects of charm. Inner character aligned with outward action was central to medieval ideals of beauty. Leaving the chapel, you wander up a gentle hillside overlooking the village. Lanterns twinkle below, illuminating cottages, gardens, and winding paths. Villagers perform quiet rituals, tending herbs, braiding hair, preparing small gifts, sharing music. Charm was cultivated through relational practices, attention, care, and deliberate presence. Beauty was dynamic, evolving through ritual, behavior, and interaction rather than static appearance. A distant melody drifts from a hidden glade. Following it, you find a musician playing for a small gathering. Music softened gestures, harmonized interactions, and lent subtle elegance. A smile, calm voice, or deliberate gesture became more luminous when accompanied by soft melody. Beauty was multisensory, composed of sight, sound, scent, movement, and relational awareness, forming a living, enduring quality. From the musician, you wandered to a small bridge over the creek. Elderly villagers sit nearby, preparing bundles of herbs and petals. Each bundle is symbolic: lavender for serenity, rosemary for memory, rose petals for warmth, ribbons for social meaning. Preparation, sharing, and gifting reflected attentiveness, kindness, and relational harmony, showing that medieval beauty extended into social interaction and communal life. Ascending the hill, you gain a vantage point overlooking the village. Lanterns glow faintly, cottages and fields bathed in soft, scattered light. Life unfolds slowly, elders tending gardens, children playing quietly, couples walking hand in hand, villagers exchanging gentle gestures of care. Charm is relational, emerging from patience, attentiveness, and harmonious action. Minor gestures: tidying hair, offering a soft smile. Arranging herbs communicated beauty, showing that charm is embedded in ritual, presence, and daily life. Near the hill's edge, an elder woman arranges jars of herbs and flowers, speaking softly about scent, touch, and ritual. Subtle fragrances calm, gestures communicate care, shared practices cultivate harmony. Beauty was relational and intentional, existing in action and attentiveness. Every small act contributes to perceived charm, weaving a subtle tapestry of deliberate care and quiet presence across the village. You walk to a quiet pond reflecting moonlight and stars. The water ripples faintly in the breeze, and deep calm settles over you. Serenity, composure, and attentiveness were associated with charm in medieval belief. Movement, expression, and presence were observed carefully, and those cultivating calmness, patience, and relational awareness were considered most attractive. Beauty was living, evolving through attention, practice, and interaction. From the pond, a narrow path leads to the village square. Lanterns glow softly, herbs sway gently in window boxes. Villagers perform tasks calmly, interact gently, and care for one another. Medieval beauty was relational, cultivated through attentive, harmonious action rather than superficial display. Even small gestures, tidying hair, offering a smile, speaking softly were expressions of charm, weaving subtle, enduring threads of presence across the community. You move to a small chapel with flickering candlelight. An elder monk speaks softly about spiritual beauty. Patience, humility, attentiveness, and calm demeanor radiate outward, enhancing perceived charm beyond physical appearance. Youth fades, features shift, but deliberate care, kindness, and composure endure as lasting elements of attraction. You leave the chapel and ascend a gentle hillside overlooking the village. Lanterns twinkle below, illuminating cottages, gardens, and paths. Villagers engage in quiet rituals, tending herbs, braiding hair, preparing small gifts, sharing music. Charm was cultivated through relational practices, attention, care, and deliberate presence. Beauty was dynamic, shaped by ritual, interaction, and presence rather than static appearance. You sit quietly on the hillside, breathing slowly, feeling the night enfold you. The village below is calm, stars above shimmering. Every story, ritual, and act of attentiveness weaves into the medieval understanding of beauty, relational, deliberate, subtle, and enduring. Soft music, carefully applied herbs, grooming, gentle gestures, and communal rituals contribute to nuanced perception of charm across time. The gentle rustle of leaves, the faint melody of a lute, and soft glow of lanterns wrap the night around you like a silken blanket. You sense the medieval world settling into your awareness, lessons of care, attentiveness, ritual, and relational presence forming a tapestry both subtle and profound. The night carries you gently, preparing your mind and body for calm sleep, while the stories of medieval beauty, charm, and presence echo softly through centuries. And as the night deepens further, a soft hush falls over the village. Lanterns flicker faintly, reflecting on quiet ponds, cobblestone paths, and the edges of thatched cottages. You walk along a winding trail that leads to the outer meadows, the grass brushing gently against your legs, and the cool night air carrying the soft scent of herbs, flowers, and distant wood smoke. Every step feels like a meditation, a gentle journey through centuries where beauty, charm, and attentiveness were cultivated not through extravagance, but through subtle gestures, ritual, and care for both self and others. Ahead, a small wooden bridge arches gracefully over a creek, moonlight shimmering on the gentle ripples. Across the bridge, an elderly woman tends her herb garden, whispering stories of seasonal beauty. In spring, flowers and fresh fragrances enlivened both hair and home. In autumn, warmth, earthy tones, and calming scents nurtured presence and serenity. Even minor acts arranging petals, trimming herbs, tying a ribbon were seen as extensions of charm, deliberate gestures that communicated care, attentiveness, and thoughtfulness. Beauty was inseparable from action, intention, and relational awareness. You continue past the garden into a quiet glade, where young women braid ribbons and flowers into each other's hair. Each color and bloom holds meaning, red for warmth, white for purity, blue for hope. Certain flowers to signal affection or respect. Braids signify skill and patience, while loose hair during festivals expresses youthful freedom and joy. Charm was relational, communicated through shared ritual, subtle gestures, and the careful cultivation of presence rather than ostentatious display. Near the glade, a small fire glows as villagers sit grinding herbs, mixing pastes, and applying subtle creams. Ground almonds softened the skin, honey smoothed, rose petals gave a natural flush, delicate oils added fragrance. Every motion is slow and intentional, teaching patience, attentiveness, and empathy alongside practical care. Beauty developed gradually, cultivated through mindful practice, awareness, and relational harmony. The night itself seems to hold these lessons, rustling leaves and rippling water, reflecting centuries of gentle ritual. Soft lute music drifts from a distant glade, drawing you toward its quiet, lilting rhythm. Each note seems to harmonize movement, soften expressions, and lend subtle elegance to those listening. Medieval people believed music amplified charm, enhancing gestures, voice, and presence. Beauty was multisensory, composed of sight, sound, scent, movement, and relational attentiveness, woven into a living, enduring tapestry. From the musician, you follow a path to a quiet pond, its surface reflecting the stars above. Elderly villagers sit arranging flowers, herbs, and small jars of oils. Each bundle carries symbolism: lavender for serenity, rosemary for memory, rose petals for warmth, and carefully chosen ribbons to convey intention. Preparation, sharing, and gifting express kindness, attentiveness, and communal harmony. Beauty extended beyond self-presentation into relationships, rituals, and mutual care. Following the pond, you approach the village square. Lanterns glow softly on cobblestones, highlighting small gardens and window boxes. Villagers move deliberately, perform tasks calmly, and interact gently with one another. Every gesture, from a kind word to a soft smile or a patient motion, contributes to perceived charm. Medieval beauty was relational, developed through thoughtful, harmonious action, with subtle, consistent care forming lasting impressions. From the square, a path leads to a candlelit chapel. Inside, an elder monk speaks softly about spiritual beauty. Patience, humility, attentiveness, and calm demeanor radiate outward, enhancing perception beyond the physical. Youth fades, symmetry shifts, but deliberate care, kindness, and composure endure, forming the most lasting aspects of attraction. Inner virtue aligned with outward action was central to medieval ideals of beauty. Leaving the chapel, you wander up a gentle hillside, overlooking the village. Lanterns twinkle below, cottages and gardens bathed in scattered light. Villagers tend herbs, braid hair, prepare small gifts, and share music. Charm is cultivated through relational practices, attention, and care. Beauty evolves through interaction, ritual, and mindful presence, rather than through superficial display. A faint melody drifts from a hidden glade. You follow it to find a musician playing softly for a small gathering. Music softens gestures, harmonizes social interaction, and lends subtle elegance. A simple smile, calm voice, or deliberate gesture becomes more luminous when accompanied by music. Beauty was multisensory, composed of sight, sound, scent, movement, and relational awareness, forming a living, enduring quality. From the musician, you wander to a small bridge over the creek. Elderly villagers sit nearby, preparing bundles of herbs and petals. Each bundle carries meaning: lavender for calm, rosemary for memory, rose petals for warmth, ribbons for social signaling. Preparation, sharing, and gifting reflect attentiveness, kindness, and relational harmony. Beauty extended beyond self-presentation into thoughtful interaction and communal care. Ascending the hill, you gain a vantage point overlooking the village. Lanterns glow softly, cottages and fields bathed in muted light. Life unfolds slowly, elders tending gardens, children playing quietly, couples walking hand in hand, villagers exchanging gentle gestures of care. Charm is relational, emerging from patience, attentiveness, and harmonious action. Even minor gestures, tidying hair, offering a gentle smile, arranging herbs communicate beauty, showing that charm is woven into daily life. Near the hill's edge, an elder woman arranges jars of herbs and flowers, speaking softly about scent, touch, and ritual. Fragrance calms, gestures communicate care, shared practices cultivate harmony. Beauty was relational and intentional, existing in action and attentiveness. Every small act contributes to perceived charm, creating a subtle, enduring tapestry of care and presence across the village. You walk to a quiet pond reflecting moonlight and stars. The water ripples faintly, carrying a sense of serenity. Calmness, composure, and attentiveness were associated with charm in medieval belief. movement, expression, and presence were observed carefully, and those cultivating patience, serenity, and relational awareness were considered most attractive. Beauty was living, evolving through attention, practice, and interaction over time. From the pond, a narrow path leads back to the village square. Lanterns glow softly, herbs sway gently in window boxes. Villagers perform tasks calmly, interact gently, and care for one another. Even the smallest gestures, tidying hair, offering a smile, speaking softly, express charm, weaving subtle, enduring threads of presence across the community. Medieval beauty was relational, cultivated through attentive, harmonious action rather than superficial display. You move to a small chapel with flickering candlelight. The elder monk speaks again softly of spiritual beauty, patience, humility, attentiveness, and calm demeanor radiate outward, enhancing perceived charm beyond appearance. Youth fades, features shift, but deliberate care, kindness, and composure endure, forming the most lasting elements of attraction. You leave the chapel and ascend the final hillside overlooking the village. Lanterns twinkle below, illuminating cottages, gardens, and winding paths. Villagers engage in quiet evening rituals, tending herbs, braiding hair, preparing small gifts, sharing music. Charm was cultivated through relational practices, attention, care, and deliberate presence. Beauty was dynamic, evolving through ritual, interaction, and mindfulness rather than fixed appearance. You sit quietly on the hillside, breathing deeply, absorbing the soft glow of lanterns, the faint rustle of leaves, the gentle melody of a distant lute. The village is calm, stars shimmer overhead. Every act of attentiveness, ritual, and care weaves into the medieval understanding of beauty, relational, deliberate, subtle, and enduring. Soft music, carefully applied herbs, grooming, gentle gestures, and communal rituals contribute to nuanced perception of charm across time. The night envelops you fully. The gentle rustle of leaves, faint melody of lute, and soft glow of lanterns wrap the world in calm. You sense the medieval world settling into your awareness, lessons of care, attentiveness, ritual, and relational presence, forming a tapestry both subtle and profound. The slow, deliberate rhythm of human life across centuries carries you gently, inviting deep calm, quiet reflection, and serene sleep. The stories of medieval beauty, charm, and presence echo softly, a timeless lullaby that flows endlessly through the night. The end.